Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan, and look, it's my sidekick, Austin. And tonight, Austin and I are going to bring you the second part of our top 100 favorite superhero movies of all time. And Austin, look at us. We didn't skip a week. We're right back the very next week. I feel like we just did this.
I know, it's crazy. We're actually trucking.
Isn't that exciting?
Mm-hmm.
I figure we might as well. This is going to be 10 shows probably.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going 10 every one, then yeah, it has to be.
That's kind of my thinking right now. Sorry, I had to resize your box here.
Okay.
I was thinking if we start really rolling on this more, because there's a lot of having to explain and justify a little bit some of those bottom picks.
We did have a lot of preamble too.
We had a lot of preamble last time. We're not going to go 20 minutes preamble this time. We'll get into it pretty quickly. That was part of it, and then some of it too is, you want to discuss the movies a little bit. You don't want to full on re-review them, but you also want to give at least a decent explanation of why it's there on your list, and maybe go down memory lane a little bit with it. That's part of the point of an exercise like this. But also some of the bottom picks are, arguably weirder often, and just not the first thing you would expect, and so we find ourselves talking about them more. So we might go a little bit quicker, and if we do, I'm totally cool hitting more, but my goal is at least 10 each time now.
Yeah, well, I already know, looking at my next 10, that it's going to be a lot of really, and I'm going to have to explain it.
Well, that's all right, man. I mean, I'm here to create the balance. I feel like my list, well, and also because it's my show, but my list, I figure, is going to be slightly more indicative of a lot of people in our audiences over yours, maybe. Like, you're probably more the counterculture pigs.
Yeah, I guess maybe a little bit.
Much of the time, not all that. I mean, you'll have some, regular mainstream things and some of people's favorite things as well. Sorry, I'm just looking at my audio here. I've been having a lot of really weird audio issues lately. And apologies if I'm too loud or too soft. It's jumping all over the place right now. I'm trying to figure it out. I may have to switch mics at some point. Not tonight, but, at some point. Anyway,
somehow you're going to swap out your mic, but not right now. Is what you're saying.
That's it. Yeah, to paraphrase something. Anyway, welcome, folks. Thanks for watching live. Thanks for watching after the fact, if you're doing that. Interact with us in the comments. We'd love to hear your reactions and how you feel about our picks. And let us know if you're with us on these things or not. And I also want to put in a quick ad again for the communal top 50 that we're doing. That will turn into a top 100, but we're asking you guys to give us your 50 favorites, because 100 is very, very daunting. And if you can't even come up with 50, you don't have to write in a whole 50. But when we're finished with this whole thing in a couple, 3 months, we're going to count down your favorite picks collectively. I say our, because our picks will also be influential in that as well. But we're going to do the same thing that we did with the top 50 DC characters and Marvel characters, which we just finished up finally last night. That series is done and behind us now. And we're we're just into this one now, so there's a little bit of overlap there. And you can do the very same thing we're doing with just your top 50 and influence the community list, and then we'll count down those that 100 when we get done with this whole thing. And that one we'll do in probably a couple of streams, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably.
Great to see everybody. This is technically part of the off-the-cuff superhero rewind programming. We're using the Superhero Rewind Unscripted moniker for this whole show. So I will also put in a real quick plug for Patreon. $10 on Patreon makes you a Patreon producer. And I forgot to list out the producers last show. I will do that at the end of this one. But that is one of the perks that you get for that. And you get to hang out with us on a Discord. And you get to help us select movies for commentary on the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. We are going to skip that this week to do a commentary on Beetlejuice. It's been a while since we've done anything not superhero. And the sequel is coming out this weekend, so I thought it might be fun to do that. We're getting into September. We're starting to gear up for October for Halloween and stuff. And I don't know how much Halloween stuff we're going to get to in October, so that might be cool to go ahead and get that out of the way. We've never done a commentary on it, so join us tomorrow night for that if you're so inclined. And that'll be somewhere in between a watch party and a regular commentary, probably. I did watch the movie again in preparation. I don't know if Austin will, but that'll be more laid back, kind of fun watching the movie.
Yeah, I watched it the other day because I was
sweet.
Because I said to you, I was like, "Oh, I'm watching Beetlejuice," and you were like, "You want to do a commentary?"
Oh, I
And
forgot
like,
you said that. Look at that. He prepared. He didn't even know we were doing it.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess this is homework now."
Anyway, so that's all the kind of paperwork section, the house cleaning stuff, and now let's get back to the list. So we are into 90, and Austin, you can keep going first if you want, or we can switch it up if you want to. I'm totally cool either way.
I'm totally game either way. Should we maybe keep it just in case, like, if you put it into one video so it's more consistent?
It'll make a little bit more sense if we eventually do a super cut of this. Yeah, that's a good point. And you were going first last time, were you not?
I think...
You're like, let's keep it the same. What the heck was it?
We're so professional.
I
think
know.
So.
I'm pretty sure we had you going first. Well, hey, remind me, what was your 100 again?
My 100, it was G.I. Joe the movie.
Yes, you did go first.
Oh, yeah.
Because the first 7 minutes of that show was me going, I don't know how I feel about the fact that you're putting G.I. Joe and Transformers movies.
That's right.
On this list, which I've come to terms with. I needed to go to see a therapist once or twice, but I'm good with it now.
It was like denial, anger, and then the other steps, and then finally acceptance.
Yeah, she had to explain to me the importance of accepting things you can't change.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a bit to get over that. I don't currently have a therapist. I have cast my therapist as female for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't know if that's okay, but...
Oh, we're back to this already. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our number 90. We're going to shoot for at least 10 today. And I don't think I put the first video link in the description. I'll make sure and do that as we go in case people want to go back and look at that. But then we did that about a week ago, so it's not too far back in the live feed there. Austin, what is your number 90, sir?
Number 91. So
wait, it's 91?
Yeah, because it was 100 to 92 was what we did last time.
No, because my 91 was TMNT. What was your 91?
No, because we only went to Logan, which is my number. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry.
No, because my 91 is TMNT, and we did that one. 100 to 91 would be 10, which is how many we did.
Wait. Remember, I'm looking at it on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I know.
Which separates two-parters into two parts. And I wasn't thinking about it, so
I know that was a problem, but I'm telling you, the number is 90.
I know. I'm just saying. I just realized because I looked down and saw the two-parter.
We had this exact argument at the end of last show.
We're good. Okay.
Anyway.
So for those who don't remember, my number 91 was Logan. My number 90 is The Return of Swamp Thing.
Which you put over Logan just to piss everybody off, I'm sure.
James Mangold's coming back to do a return of The Return of Swamp Thing. So
I
it's connected.
I mean, it's gonna be a new continuity, but I wish he'd call it that.
Oh, it would be awesome.
The return of Swamp Thing.
hmm So the Return of Swamp Thing is like complete schlock. It's basically entirely a farce, and it's pretty fun. The big reason it made my list is just it has like maybe like in the top 5 best openings in any comic book movie. Uh, it kind of squanders it after that, but like if we were just doing like the top 10 best openings in a superhero movie, it makes it easily.
And I did that video years ago, but I've never seen this movie. And
hmm
this is one of the few things you'll have on your list that I've not seen. And it was
Yeah,
on my list of things to try to watch for this, just in case it would make the list, and I did not get to it.
I don't think it would. But I don't know, like it's a fun enough movie. The villain from the first movie comes back.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and,
Is it the same actor?
yes, it's the same actor for both the villain and Swamp Thing. And there's like a new love interest who's the one from the comics, and there's a hilariously awkward sex scene between the two of them because his love interest is just a woman who's in love with plants. Like she walks around like, oh, I love plants.
Weird.
Talks to them and stuff. So she sees Swamp Thing and she's like, "Oh my god, like you have to be my boyfriend." And all that's really fun.
Is there a big, sorry, off the beaten path for a second, is there a big Swamp Thing Poison Ivy story in the comics anywhere? There's gotta be, right?
I'm actually not sure.
Especially more recently since we
Thing.
brought him back since New 52, which is
Doesn't
going back
Swamp Thing
12,
show
13
up
years.
in that Batman and Harley Quinn movie?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. I think that's like a Harley Quinn or
Poison Ivy's in
Poison Ivy
that,
thing.
yeah. So they
Yeah.
probably have an interaction there that I'm not remembering. But I wonder if there's ever a big comic story. Anyway, I've always been curious about this movie. I just haven't seen it yet.
hmm Yeah, it's interesting because like I think Connor likes it more than the first one. I'm not entirely sure how to rank them. Like it's really hard.
Yeah, I like the first one well enough. I will spoil right away. It didn't make my list. It didn't quite
issue-
get there, and I haven't seen it in a real long time. So it's possible it would have popped back on there if I went back and rewatched it. I think on the rewind I gave it like a 2 or a 2.5. It was kind of a marginal recommend, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed it well enough.
The issue with
It's got
the
a real
first Swamp
charm,
Thing movie,
certainly.
yeah. The issue with the first Swamp Thing movie is it's made too early, where it's like Wes Craven, I think, needed a little bit more experience, and I also think he would just do better with the Alan Moore version of Swamp Thing, and that didn't exist yet. So it's like it comes out just a little too early, but it's good.
And I'm so curious about that TV show that only made it the one season. But you said you didn't care for what you saw of it.
Yeah, I saw 2 episodes, and I was like, I don't know. But it's I think show ran by Gary Daberman, who's like my mortal enemy.
Oh,
So take that for what it's
he's
worth.
taken it personally. What else has that guy
Exactly.
done that makes you upset?
So he is, and you're not going to agree with me on this, but this is more so just like following the production. And the first one's good, but he is the writer that WB brings on to the new It movies, and like waters down the first script, and then I think makes a way worse second one. And then he does a lot of like just like kind of crappy modern horror stuff. And he's directing Salem's Lot, which is a thing that I was very excited about getting remade until they hired him. So, but yeah,
For the record, I'm not in massive disagreement with you on the It movies. I have no opinion about those whatsoever. Like I saw
Yeah.
them. I thought they were fine. I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't especially critical of those. It's not my thing.
well, a lot of it's just I've seen like the scripts before that, and that's very much like an Ant-Man situation where
Oh,
there's
sure.
a much more interesting version with a different director, and then he drops off, and then they bring on Gary Daberman, who makes like a way worse script, and then they bring on Muschietti, who's the director, and then he kind of reworks the Daberman script into a better version of it. But
Well, and that's the Flash guy, right?
yes,
Who's getting Brave and the Bold.
yeah,
And so, I mean, I'm on pins and needles about that because Flash is awful. But if I was just looking at it, I'd go, I mean, maybe he could do an okay Batman movie. I don't know.
Hmm.
I didn't think the direction was terrible in those. It's got the kind of modern jump scare problem a little bit, but
Hmm. Yeah, it's hard to say. I'm like wishy-washy. Like
yeah,
it could be good, could be bad. I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
I'm sure I would feel the same way you do if I'd followed that production, though. That's
Yeah, for
rough.
sure.
Okay, well, that's a really interesting pick, Austin.
Thank you.
And you had not seen that before you were doing a little bit of prep for this, right? It
Yes, I saw it. So I think I started it when we first talked about this, like months
was
ago.
like 6 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and then for whatever reason I had to turn it off, and I just like went back and watched it all the way through like a week or two ago. Both Swamp Thing movies are on YouTube, so like if anyone wants to watch them, they're very easily accessible.
Oh, cool. What year is that? They're both kind of early '80s, right?
Let me see. It is 89. So same year as
Oh,
Batman.
later than I remembered. Okay. The first one has to be 3 or 4 years before that, though, right?
I want to.
Because I had like 86, 80, or
I was gonna
85 in
say
my mind.
82, and yeah, the first one's 82.
Oh, it's that
So
early even.
yeah, well,
Okay.
because I knew it was before Nightmare. Like that's part of it being Wes Craven, like a little unseasoned. So I was like, it's at least before 84.
Is it like? Oh yeah, and you know a lot more about Wes Craven and think about that more than I do. So, yeah, good call. Does that have the Batman Returns thing where the only thing that's really returning is the character to the screen?
Not necessarily, just because it has the same villain. So it's like we remember the first one happened. But
Okay.
that's about it.
I like returns in a title because the character is literally coming back to something. It's like one of the only things Superman Returns got right.
Yeah, and I don't. I think it's the same thing as Batman Returns, where it's like, he's still here.
That's what I'm saying.
He's still kicking.
He just came back to the theater. That's what. Okay.
It should have just called it Bride of Swamp Thing. Let's be honest.
So my number 90. I mean, I made it sound like we were, at least on my end, well past the. I kind of fought myself on even putting this on my list bits. This is another one of those, but it ends up as high as it does, and this will shock people that I ended up including this, because I have had lots of disparaging things to say about this movie, throughout the years. It is a movie. I love throwing out some hints before I tell you what it is. It is a movie that I gave a glowing review of when it first came out, and that I've liked less and less as I've seen it. But it winds up as high on my list as it does because of the things that I do continue to admire about it, and because of the experience I had with it in the first place, and also because it is undeniably one of my favorite scores in superhero movies, and it's Man of Steel.
Oh, okay, that is not where I thought.
That's
you were
not what
going.
you thought it was going to be.
No,
I'm kind of
uh,
curious to know what you thought it was.
I thought it was going to be your number one, Iron Man 2.
No, it
The
is.
second you said score, it really threw me off. I was
You're
like,
like, wait a minute. Iron Man 2 is just kind of a mediocre score.
Yeah, I don't remember the score. I'm sure it's fine.
Um, Man of Steel was absolutely hurt for me by BVS, and I was already kind of turning on it a little bit, or maybe more than a little bit before that. The more I looked at it, the more stuff fell apart. I'm always making fun of the way Jonathan Kent dies in that movie. I'm always complaining about how Superman does not feel like the kind of optimistic, hopeful character that the movie is touting him up to be. I even have, of course, some visual issues with that piece. I don't love the way the action is shot, and I wish that the colors weren't so muted, but Cavill is a really good choice, and I think that Lois Lane had the potential to be the best Lois Lane. So I mean, some of it is just really great, and like I loved the choice for Perry White in that movie. There's a lot of really good casting choices in that, and good performances despite everything. Man, I got excited when Fishburne was cast. Like that's such a good Perry White, and he's fun in BVS too. I just don't like that movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably of that like Man of Steel, like my favorite casting choice of the bunch. He is really good in that. I don't remember anything he says in Man of Steel, but he has the best line in BVS with the water line.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel a little odd, a little awkward, putting that movie here. But if I'm being completely honest with myself, I still have a soft spot for, a lot of choices with that, and with again just the feelings I had when I first saw it. The opening with the last 15 minutes of a Krypton movie I always wanted to see was really exciting. However, I might feel about some of the choices with that, but I don't even mind like how their Krypton looks and like the flying creatures and all of that. There's some fun stuff in there.
It's very post-Avatar.
It is, and I don't like Avatar, but I don't mind that look for Krypton. It's all right. The kind of like nature nurture question throughout that movie with whether Zod like actually has a choice in what he's doing or whether he's genetically programmed to do what he does is still really interesting to me. I don't think it's brought out far enough, and I think I probably gave it too much credit in the first place. But it's a real good kind of Byrne-esque take that I wish was smarter than it is in that movie. But yeah, so this is a real apologetic pick. But I feel like I would have been remiss if I hadn't picked it, and I do think it probably is better than a lot of my bottom 10.
I mean, to be fair, Man of Steel is a movie you can rework into a good movie, at least on like on the scripting side.
Absolutely.
Because
it gets tougher when you get to the codex thing. I don't know how I feel about that at the end of the day. Thematically, there's kind of some interesting ideas with that, but like I don't know, making your protagonist the MacGuffin of his own movie is kind of a cool idea. I just don't really get how that would have turned into. And then the population of Krypton comes back. I never fully grasped all of that.
Just the DNA is in him, so you can make. That's like the only way to make more Kryptonians.
Yeah, I guess
that it will throw out.
And to be fair, it's been a while. I don't go back to that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what the idea is. It's like the Codex is how they have births. So like that's in Superman, so they have to get it out so they can birth new Kryptonians. The issue with Man
but
of
if you
Steel,
had
though,
the technology in the first place, I don't get why you couldn't just do it again. Like, I don't know. You need all that specific DNA, like,
yeah,
to make.
That's the issue of Man of Steel, man.
Yeah,
it's very.
I don't even know how to talk about it. It's very vague.
It throws out a good idea at you, and then it goes, okay, now we're not going to do anything with it. Like, my issue with it, and it's like very inherent in the Krypton scene, and it will continue for the rest of the movie. But like, it's such a perfect little example of it, which is that it'll throw out things like, oh, you know, the dystopian society, we can't have children anymore, like they're all programmed or whatever. And then like 80% of that sequence is Jor-El flying around on a cartoon dragon as ships blow up in the background, and I'm like, stop. Talk about this stuff. Like, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, to like develop those ideas a little bit, explore that whole culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I don't need Zod coming in and stabbing Jor-El before the ship leaves. Like, talk about some of your ideas more.
Yeah, there's a little Star Trek 09 in that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm thinking about it. He's got the same thing with Nero killing Kirk's dad at the beginning of that movie with a spear. Like, it's really, really similar. I never thought about that before.
Yeah, it's so much. It's excess, the movie.
But I love the ambient alien sounding score with that. I know you're not a big Zimmer guy, but that's a score I've listened to quite a bit. That I even more fell in love with when I was working on the rewind for that movie, because I was playing it constantly while I was writing that, and I kind of fell for it through that. But anyway, it was that's an odd thing for me to include, but I could not help myself ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, that's all good.
I think I also would have felt remiss including the Marvels and not that.
But now I'm just disappointed the Marvels was lower.
You just wish the Marvels was like my 37 or something.
Over Wong, Cap? Come on now.
I did.
My number 90 is, oh no, sorry, number 89
Oh
is,
yeah, no, I'm dumb. Chewbacca's lover's right. It wasn't Kirk's dad. It was the captain of the Kelvin. That's what it was.
uh,
I got too many movies in my head right now. No, his dad dies, of course, saving the ship in a shuttle while his wife is giving birth. That was that whole thing, and played by Thor before he's Thor.
isn't his mom someone as well? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
I remember Spock's mom is Winona Ryder, and she's a really goofy death.
Yes.
That's all I remember.
That was a very convoluted death, and she's there like I don't know why it's Winona Ryder. She's there 6 seconds, and then she just falls off a cliff while everybody else is beaming. It's ridiculous.
She was like, I'm not quite at my big comeback yet. It's gonna be a couple more years.
Anyway, Austin, we can start moving a little quicker. What's your next one?
My number 89 is Deadpool 2. A slight improvement over the first one for me is mainly in direction. I think direction-wise, it's not a slight improvement. It's like a huge improvement. But the story's a little sloppier, but also a lot of the stuff that a lot of the parts in the first movie, outside of just him being Deadpool, I don't really like in the first movie anyways. So I don't know. For me, it's kind of pick your poison. It also really drags. Like, I don't think we've had something as forced as the X-Force section in like any superhero movie in a while. Like, that entire sequence drags so much on rewatches.
That's the stuff I don't mind as much with that, but
No, a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm just trashing this movie.
I hear you. Yeah, I keep doing this too, where it's like I pick one of what I'm calling one of my favorite superhero movies, and I go, here's all the stuff that's wrong with it.
Yeah, and I mean, it helps that like I don't really love any of the Deadpool movies,
Sure.
but a lot of it for me is just step up in direction. Like, all the action's a lot better. Deadpool's in it more. I have always really liked the that they make Vanessa death in that movie.
Yeah, and I still feel weird having not thought of that on my own. You had to tell me that. That never occurred to me that that's what they were doing.
I mean, they get rid of it by the end, so
yeah. And of course, you know, that's the big thing that pisses me off with that movie, that they retcon that ultimately. But I always kind of forget that Deadpool has a thing with death in the comics. I always have to remind myself, and that goes back to Joe Kelly.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure where that came from.
I'm pretty sure that's there that early.
No, that's cool.
Somebody correct me if I'm remembering it wrong. It's been 12 years since I read that, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
Fire Fist is very annoying.
Fire Fist.
I can remember what his name is.
Prison
like
Wallet.
The one of the first movie.
It's more teasing Sinister without ever getting there.
That is true. That is true. Josh Brolin as Cable's pretty good.
He is good.
Domino's great.
Domino's the best. Yeah. She's the thing that really kicks it up for me, even though I don't care for that movie compared to 1 and 3. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to say that big sequence where they first showcase her powers looks terrible, but she's great. That actress is great.
Isn't that weird? Because the storyboarding is great. Like, I get what they're trying to put on the screen, but it doesn't look very good.
Well, I could be wrong, but that's maybe a last minute thing, because there was that whole accident on set during that sequence, so I wonder if that maybe correlates.
Maybe that's why. Well, you almost have to give it to them if that's what it was.
If that is, then yeah, but I don't know for sure. Like, that could be completely made up.
I'm still upset she didn't come back.
It's ridiculous. I was shocked they didn't bring back her or Cable.
I was in love with her.
They brought back stupid Shatterstar.
Yeah.
Oh.
Have you ever seen that actress in anything else?
Yeah, she's in Joker. I feel like
that's true. She is in Joker. No, I guess I have too then. She is in Joker.
I mean, she's not in Joker a lot, but...
Well, she needs to do more comedy, because she's really good at it. It is like the straight man that's... Or sort of the straight man, where like she's really funny, but she's not doing a funny performance.
Mm-hmm. She's very like charismatic, like easygoing.
She just really gets that part. Yeah, she's just all carefree because everything's going to work out for her no matter what she does. It's such a good take on that character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. No, she's really good in that movie. Um, what was I going to say? There was something else. Oh, that's what it was. So I think we talked, like I mentioned this on After Dark, but when I first moved out of my mom's house, I moved in with my dad's first wife after they'd split up. I was just like, hey, can I stay here for a bit? And she's like, that's fine. And so I was there, and it was right when Deadpool 2 came out. And her boyfriend went on like a 2-hour rant to me about how they killed off Shatterstar and how Shatterstar was like his favorite character growing up. And it just ended with me being like, dude, it's Shatterstar, no one cares. Like it's a trash 90s character. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry you loved him, but you're out on an island here.
Yeah.
Is it a
He was like, oh,
Canadian
Shatterstar's
thing?
the coolest character. He's so powerful.
Is he an Alpha
I have no
Flight
idea.
guy? Is it a Canadian thing? Because we
No,
all
I
know
think
how
he is an X-Force thing.
we all know how extremely but I thought maybe he went back and forth. We all know how extremely popular Alpha Flight is in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Because we have the Alpha Flight Museum. All I know is that he's an alien and he's like godlike powerful. That's all I know about him. And that was like the main thing he went on about, was that he is like Superman level power, and he dies by like going into a helicopter blade. And I was like, no one cares.
Yeah.
I especially don't care.
Bob the Hunt, $5 super chat. Thanks, man. He says the X-Force thing depends on if you find it funny or not. If Deadpool's humor already turns you off, you'll hate it. This applies to other stuff too.
So for me with the X-Force things, it's just too long. Like if they did the joke, it's fine. But for me, it's like it's basically the Zoolander gasoline joke, but it takes like 20 minutes to get there. And all of that is the issue for me with the X-Force thing. The actual payoff is fine. It takes way too long to get there. It feels like filler.
Yeah, and I'm not like over the moon about that joke where I'm just losing my mind in the theater that they did that. I know a lot of people did feel that way about it, but I don't know if the joke actually would have played for me even as well as it did if it wasn't a slow burn like that, because I think that's kind of supposed to be like I see what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be the joke where it's like this is like a first act plot point. We've built the team, and the last thing you expect to happen is they all die before we even get anywhere, and like that's supposed to be why it's funny. So like I think you need a slow burn for that joke to work. So Bob the Hunt might be onto something a little bit.
But I would say in order to make that work, you have to do like the other guys thing where like the team is really cool instead of they show up and they're like, look how stupid these characters are. They're so stupid.
Yeah, I
look
agree
how
with
stupid
that.
they are. And then they just die. And he's like, yeah, they were stupid.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I know. That's been the entire joke for the last 20 minutes.
Well, and then, and I'm going to take a page out of your book for a second, because then Gunn comes in the Suicide Squad, kind of does it better, because that is a more interesting team of people.
And
then we see them all die. Say again?
Yeah, and it sums up the premise. Like, it's like, this is the premise of what this is.
There's more of a purpose in it. And I bring that up because it's kind of the same joke done, in my mind, a little better, but also it takes about the same amount of time. Mm-hmm. Like, that's also a slow burn.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and that works because A, it's the Suicide Squad, that's the premise, and B, it's treating it like this is the movie, and then it goes, nah, it's the Suicide Squad. They're all expendable. Well, and now you know what the stakes are.
It's even more multi-purpose than that, too, because it also informs Amanda Waller quite a bit.
Yes, that's true, too. No, like, there's a lot of things happening in that sequence. And in Deadpool 2, it's just, LOL, they're dead.
Yeah. And sometimes the Deadpool movies will do a really good job of making something both a joke and a story point. And sometimes it's just sketch comedy for that moment. And that's kind of what it is there.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, that's my 89 that I trashed on, but I feel like I gave it some good qualities.
I'm worried that what we're getting from Austin here ultimately is he doesn't really like superhero movies that much.
Oh, wait till you get to number 5 and I'm trashing on it like Jason with Two-Face.
My 89 is a movie that you brought up already from last time that's just slightly higher than you had it, and another movie that I considered not including that I went back and forth on a little bit. And like I said, there's another 16 that were on and off of this list. So this whole thing is arbitrary to some degree, but especially the last 15, 20 get pretty arbitrary. But I went ahead and included Ant-Man for a lot of the reasons that we talked about last time. And I won't just trash it, because we already talked about all the things we don't like about Ant-Man.
See, when you laughed at me for putting on Ant-Man, I was like, oh, Cap doesn't have Ant-Man on it. I'm going to look so much worse.
I almost didn't, but the reason I laughed at it was just because you mulled over it so hard, I didn't think you would ultimately include it. You were like, I hope to God I watch something that bumps this off. And I thought it would be, if it was there, I thought it would be like 100.
Yeah.
But the two primary reasons I included it are Paul Rudd, undeniably funny, undeniably the right choice for that role. B, sorry, we're just talking about so many different movies. Douglas.
It's not the B movie; it's the Ant-Man movie.
but B, Douglas is Hank Pym. Also, perfect casting. Kind of wish the movie was just about him, and kind of wish he was allowed to be more morally ambiguous. But whatever. We got halfway there, and he was a really great choice. And that would have been a really good actor for that role 20 years earlier, doing a younger Hank Pym. And then C, just all the stuff we talked about last time with the relative size, the fun that they have with the miniature action, and there are some there's some dodgy effects here and there, but there's some really decent visual effects as well. I think some of the stuff with the bathtub looks really good, especially when you get in the third act and you have the big. I think the visual that sticks with me the most from that movie is the big chase scene over city roofs that's real typical in a superhero movie, but it's all in unpainted miniatures. I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really fun stuff like that. I don't.
And it gets points for including the SNL Ant-Man, which is like, that's crazy that he has a cameo.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that. So yeah, we talked about a lot of the stuff that we've got issues with that last time, and how lame the villain is, and the villain somehow gets even lamer when he comes back in 3. But it is a fun movie. I don't mind rewatching it. I don't agree. We didn't talk about this. I don't agree with people because I saw this in the live chat last time that say that the romance is that great. I've never thought that those two actors had a great deal of chemistry together.
They're okay.
Just
worse.
Okay.
There's worse. There's better.
Sure.
Yeah, they're like right in the middle.
But it did feel old school typical in that it felt like they kind of get together because they're supposed to.
Is that? I'm trying to think. I don't know, because you'd have Spider-Man. I was going to say, is that like the last big solo movie? Like, here's the love interest, and like we have a thing with that? Because I feel like they keep skipping that now.
Yeah, you mean an MCU?
An MCU.
Yeah, because they avoid it like the plague.
Spider-Man
now.
would have it, but like Black Panther, like.
But I feel like, and not everybody's going to agree with this, but Black Panther sort of dodges it. In going, like, they used to be an item and she's kind of staying away from him because she doesn't want to be part of that world. And then when he dies, all bets are off with that. And
it probably could have been like a Tony and Pepper thing where we built to that.
Eventually we would get back to it, but he dies off screen, and then they got back together at some point, and now she's having his kid at the end, if I'm remembering that right. Isn't that what happens?
Yeah. Well, she shows up and she has like a 10-year-old.
Yeah, because of the blip. Do they get pregnant before that? And then,
I guess.
Yeah, I've seen that movie one time. Did not make a great impression on me. We'll obviously do a rewind on that, commentary on that eventually. But I was just gonna say, like, not a lot of people will. I've lost my train of thought. I forget where I was going with that. What I was going to say is, not a lot of people will agree with this, but I felt like they were almost even apologetic about the romance in Far From Home.
You think so?
I always got a little bit of that.
I don't have that at all. Interesting.
Like I said, nobody's going to agree with that. That might just be kind of a me thing, but
I mean, we'd have to talk about it while watching it.
yeah.
Because, yeah, I don't know.
Dan Schneider, $5 super chat. Peter David wrote Shatterstar and X-Force. They actually have a lot of comic fans. They were pissed. Think Birds of Prey, Cassandra Cain, but for them, yeah, I got no dog in this. I wouldn't know that.
Well,
I didn't even know
too,
Peter David created that character.
I should say too, like if just a comic fan came up to me and they were like, "Oh, I don't like how they used them," I'd be like, oh, "That's fine." Um, he was very much like I read Spawn once, like 30 years ago, and it's like the most badass thing ever, bro. And like,
Yeah.
when's the Spawn movie coming out? Like, it was like that kind of a thing. Where like that's why it was annoying.
Yeah,
I probably should have explained that.
He had
better.
a memory of it that he hadn't thought about until that movie came out.
Yeah,
and it
was
didn't match his 20-year-old memory, 30-year-old memory.
It was also specifically like, why isn't Shatterstar like saving the day in the Deadpool movie? And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Anyway, so yeah, Ant-Man. What's your next one?
So we're on what, 88?
Yes, sir.
My 88 is. I feel like I'm slowly getting more and more out of.
Now I want to coordinate these numbers to dates movies came out, but I did not do that. I'm like, I want my 88 to be a movie that came out in 88.
I want a movie that came out in 1.
My number 1 is a superhero movie from the year 1901. I guess 2001. You could do that.
It's called Baby Jesus. It came out in 1. My number 88 is G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, the first of the live action movies, which is one where people are going to be like, whoa, I can't believe you said that. I don't know. I think it's a fun movie.
Especially because people still aren't even going to be with you on those being on this list.
No, because most of the chat agreed with me in the first one. So
really? Okay.
I'm all in the clear. There was a bunch of people in the chat that were like, no, I agree with you. That's fine. I don't know if they'll agree with me on that, but
I love getting ganged up on my own channel. It's the best.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that great? G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra is a perfectly fine movie. It's pretty fun. It's nothing deep or anything. Like, I feel like a lot of the more interesting ideas were left on the cutting room floor. But it like just kind of skirts by despite that. A lot of the cast is really good. Like, I really like what's his face, the first of the reboot Doctor Who's, he's Malekith. Eccleston,
yeah.
He's really good in that as the main villain. That's another movie he hates because it's Christopher Eccleston and he hates every project that he's been in.
Hates everything he's in. Yeah. So that was a paycheck. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe Eccleston just shouldn't talk about anything after he makes it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like the perfect movie to slap on if you just want to have a fun time. It's made by the same guy who did the Mummy movies, so it's probably not far off of what those are. And for some reason, it's a backdoor sequel, apparently.
What? To those?
Yeah, just because Brendan Fraser is in it and he's playing like his descendant or something stupid. I don't know.
That is stupid.
But he's in one scene, so it's fine.
Okay.
And then, of course, Ray Park is awesome as always. But
yeah, I've never seen that. I didn't even know he was in it.
Yeah, he's Snake Eyes. He was like the mute ninja.
Yeah.
He's really cool.
Yeah, you don't know who Snake Eyes is. But that's like the only thing I know about G.I. Joe.
He's like the only thing.
I know he got his own movie and everybody was angry that he's talking and he doesn't have a mask, but
that movie sucks. You know what that movie is?
What?
It's Shang-Chi 2. It was even written by the same person.
No way. Did it come out after Shang-Chi?
I think they're like the same year and like months apart. But that guy wrote Shang-Chi, the Snake Eyes movie, and the Mortal Kombat movie. And like they all come out like the same year and they all suck.
That seems like a Judge Dredd situation where fans are probably just like clamoring for eventually somebody comes in and makes that again and he keeps his mask on and doesn't say anything.
Well, and it wastes one of the best casting choices in any of those movies, which is Samara Weaving is Scarlet. But they're making a G.I. Joe Transformers movie, so
Yeah.
maybe they'll bring her back. We shall see.
Yeah, I'm hoping against hope that they don't add too many franchises to that, and that I mean, eventually, obviously, that movie will be whatever it is, but as they go shared universe, I'm hoping against hope that that's not how they reboot Power Rangers.
I'm like, just
I'm
keep
really
it
worried
those
about
two.
it.
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
Yeah, that's what the comics are doing, and they're great.
And they've
That's what they
been
need.
kind of intrinsically linked to people for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
is that as reasonable as a like Alien versus Predator or Freddy versus Jason, where it's like everybody, like a lot of people have connected them forever? You might as well just put them together. Is it like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely. I think people were kind of annoyed that they teased that at the end of the last Transformers movie, but I was like, oh, cool. That scene is really cringy, but I'm like, that's cool. Make a G.I. Joe Transformers movie. I'm happy.
Or like Godzilla and Kong? Like
Yeah.
those are things that make sense to put together.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, my 88. We wondered if this would happen, and it already has. Really, really close to where you put this. My 88 is Deadpool 2.
Oh, yeah, we're only, what, two off?
Yeah.
Or one off.
One
sorry.
off.
Because I was going off of my last
Really
one.
close. Yeah, I had to fight myself to not just go ahead and say it right then.
There you go.
So we've already kind of talked about that, but yeah, I've got my massive frustrations with that. But obviously, there are those things that are a lot of fun about that movie, and I'm not with Austin with the order of them. I still like one quite a bit more than two, and the retconning at the end of that just drives me nuts. But again, Domino really puts it. It's one of the big reasons it's as high as it is, and I do think a decent amount of the comedy in that movie works. And Cable is funny, or is fun, I guess.
Mhm. The dubstep thing is annoying, but they're fun together.
The dubstep thing. Oh
You see the thing
yeah,
with dubstep? Oh, that also.
yeah, that's true.
I think the Deadpool joke I think of the most comes from the two of them. When they're gonna fight all the people at the hospital, and Deadpool's like, "Can I borrow one of your guns?" And Cable's like, "Nope." And Deadpool goes, "Okay, I'm just gonna use this brick."
I'm just gonna use this brick.
That always gets me. That's a good joke.
It's so good. Well, the one that sticks with me with Cable is the whole Black Tom thing.
Oh yeah.
I think that's so funny when he's like, "I'm not
Killed
racist."
Black Tom, you racist.
That's really funny.
I found out recently the guy who plays Black Tom is the new Hellboy, and I was like, "You killed Black Tom."
That's so good. Thomas Slow, do you guys put fan films on the list? No. Well, I did not.
no.
We were we didn't coordinate this to say it has to be like actual license and mainstream, but I think that's a given.
hmm Yeah, and I haven't even seen enough fan films to be
You're
like,
not really a fan film guy. And
yeah.
there isn't that like great screen worthy fan film for me that would make a top 100.
I would maybe, from what you've told me about that Dirty Laundry one, maybe it would make my like bottom end. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's also a short film. It's 10 minutes. We were
Okay,
trying to
yeah.
include features on this.
Very true.
I did cheat with one special, but it's almost feature length. Like,
Oh no.
yeah, I was back and forth on whether or not I should do that, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't have picked. I would have drawn the line at 10 minutes.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, my oh no was more so like, oh, that probably would have made my list, but I didn't think to include it.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. I mean, I have G.I. Joe and Transformers. So.
It's also not the thing you're thinking of.
Oh, okay.
I did not do that.
It is not Werewolf by Night.
No, it is not Werewolf by Night. I put that on just to piss off
okay.
Austin.
Yeah.
No, it's a different
I know
thing.
what you're talking about now. Okay.
It was another thing I kind of fought with myself with, and then I was like, I got to do that. It's coming up pretty soon.
Okay.
But anyway, as far as fan films go, there are certainly a few that I admire, like on the level that they're working at, but nothing that would crack my 100.
Mm-hmm.
So like I like a lot of things about the production of City of Stars, City of Scars, and the Casey Jones fan film is decent. until the paper mache Michelangelo at the end. And not even because he's paper mache, but just like why would
Just 'cause he's
you?
Michelangelo.
Why is he Michelangelo? First of all, and well, I know you're joking when you say that, but the problem with
I'm like partly joking because I know that is like a stupid thing.
it is a stupid thing. It's a prequel. I like it. Like it's very prequely. It almost could fit in the movie continuity, but even forgetting continuity stuff, just why would anybody want Michelangelo to be the first turtle that Casey Jones meets? And I'm positive the only reason they did that was because they were able to get Robbie Rist to voice him. So they're like, well, we have a voice of, and the fact that it's a movie voice just adds fuel to that fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, we have to cheat and make it Michelangelo because we got that a legit voice actor from those movies to agree to do it. I'm like, that's not enough of a reason to do it.
They should have gotten the guy who plays Donatello in 2, just so he could be like, yeah.
Oh no, yeah,
You're a turtle, yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I'm jumping off the reels here.
No, it's okay. What are we at? Number 87?
Braden Atkinson, can I include a thing if it was shown in a theater? I mean, I'm gonna say you can include whatever you want to, but it's probably not gonna make it if nobody else picks it. But also, I would avoid fan films. I think at the very least we should keep all this licensed, but
The only fan film that should make anyone's list is that was it Spider-Man's Last Stand, where the guy actually swung from a balcony, because that is like the most badass thing ever.
wasn't that made in like the mid-90s?
Well, it looks like it was made in like the 70s with a potato, so I think so.
It does, but I think it was like 96, 97.
Yeah, there's a lot of charm to that. That is a fan film.
I've never sat through the whole thing, but
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry. What is your 87? Is that where we're at?
Yes, my number 87 is Avengers Endgame, which is a movie that I think has a lot of things going for it and a lot of big missteps, but overall, the things that I like about it win out enough that I like that movie well enough. For every end of Iron Man or how they handle Captain America, there is a Thor and Hulk.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum. I don't have much to add
exactly.
right now at the moment. It is obviously going to wind up higher on my list. I don't mind saying it'd be weird if Endgame just wasn't on my 100. Like, what else?
It's definitely like number 5.
What else is there? But that is a movie that doesn't completely stick the landing, and I wish I could put higher. And I also wish that I felt like Infinity War and Endgame were more of the same quality.
That's my big thing, and especially because riding the high, like in the theater, I was like, "Oh, that was really good," and then I've never been able to find that experience. Like that is a way I guess I can relate to people with No Way Home, even though I didn't have that. Where it's like, just in the moment, it was like, "Oh yeah, like they stuck the landing." There was things I didn't like, but that was great. And then over time, it's just kind of gone down, but not to a point where I dislike it. Like it's never hit that point.
You know what? Yeah, I'm the same way with it. You know what Infinity War and Endgame are to me, and also Endgame hasn't fallen off real hard for me since the theater either. I feel about the same way as I did about it.
Sure.
I think, but I mean, 5 years ago, I don't remember what exactly I said in reviews or whatever, but I don't think I've dropped down real hard with it. I know lots of people that didn't like it in the first place, and that have liked it less as they've seen it. I still don't mind the time travel referential stuff as much as a lot of people do, but then there are bits of it that I think go too far. So I don't have the whole like don't go back to like the end of Back to the Future 2 with it thing that some people have. I don't mind that. I think some of the cleverer things they do in the movie are with that, like going back to the Guardians intro and all that. Like I think that stuff's great, but some of it is not. And when we have Tony Stark go back and meet his dad, that stuff gets too sappy to a point that I can't even deal with it. It starts to get kind of TV.
Yeah. So I don't like that they went to time travel at all. and I especially
Oh,
don't
fair
like how
enough. Yeah.
we get there. But I agree with you. Like, I'm not as bothered by like, oh, we went back to the previous movies. I think some of the stuff in that is fine. It can be pretty fun. I don't know. I wish they went any other route. Especially, I don't like the scene where Tony Stark just walks in and he's like, "Yep, I invented time
I
travel."
don't like that either.
It's
They're
awful.
too flippant about the whole thing.
Yeah, it's rough.
They
uh,
basically throw their hands in the air and make it too much of a joke, and they go, because it's a conceit, we don't have to take it seriously or have rules that we stick to. And so they give us really vague rules in the first place, and then I don't even think where it ultimately goes fits with what they initially set up. And we don't have to get back into all of that again, but I've never bought their time travel rules.
See, and I think their time travel rules make perfect sense until the ending. The ending is where they go,
Yeah,
we want to have this ending, so like we have to break what we said. But I think before that, their time travel's fine. It's just once we get to that point,
I'm just going to stand by it's also a little vague and kind of generic, but
I don't know. Fair enough. What was I gonna say? Oh, I also think with the climax, I kind of wish it was just the main like Avengers Trinity fighting Thanos at the end, because I
yeah.
think that is the best part of the climax. And then once everybody else comes in, like it's fine. It's a little ugly to look at,
And
but the
I don't
most
like all the
important
curtain
part-
call stuff. It just feels because it doesn't. That's the stuff that doesn't hold up as well on repeat viewings, where it kind of feels like it was for that opening weekend and no other time. It feels like you're watching a stage play where like
Mhm.
people are coming in that you haven't seen for a while, and you're supposed to be all excited that you're seeing them, and then we're all applauding, and it's too much of like a live show that's pre-recorded, if that makes any sense at all.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. The best character for me though is probably Nebula in that she's great in
She's really
Endgame.
great in that.
Yeah. Um, and I really like Rocket in that movie. The only Fat Thor scene I like is when he like gives Thor the like dress down bit where they call back to the "We all have dead people" line from the first
Oh yeah,
Guardians.
that's true.
I really like that scene. And then yeah.
I also like how that movie opens a lot because it's just real unconventional and not what I expected. Like Nebula with Tony Stark at the beginning.
Mhm.
There's some kind of sweet stuff with that, and
Absolutely. I
there,
wish they had more screen time after the jump because
yeah.
they're really good together in that first sequence, and then uh, they kind of pair her off with Rhodey, and it's not as good of a thing. But
I agree with that. Yeah, and I hadn't really thought about that, but I don't know. I one of the things that's fun about having that many characters in a thing that had all been in other movies that didn't really talk to each other is unlikely pairings. And it's nice that they did some of that. They could have done more of it.
mhm.
There's also just nice downtime moments here and there in an otherwise, and there's no way around it, kind of bloated thing, right? So like the scene, some of it's comedy stuff. This I don't know why, but I always laugh at Hulk with the taco. It's just that's really funny to me.
Oh, he gives it to Ant-Man.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah,
I'm always laughing at that. I don't know why. There's just some nice little quirky moments like that in that movie.
just little character bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We almost got that scene where I forget who it is, maybe Thor, where they shave Rocket. That would have been strange.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much you've seen like the deleted scenes for those
I've just
movies,
heard
but
people mention that. I don't think I've watched any of the deleted scenes with that movie. I forget.
yeah, I think they're like showing. I think there's like a whole thing where they're talking about we have to go here, and they're talking about Avengers, and they're like, oh, the Battle of New York, we had to fight the Chitauri, and Rocket's like you guys struggle against the Chitauri, like they're paper people. You blow up their ship and they all die. Everyone knows that, and then someone comes up behind him and shaves them. It's really weird. It's like a jackass joke.
Yeah, that's very strange. Dan Schneider, $5 super chat. Thanks. He says the Fat Thor thing wanted to be funny and tragic at the same time and ends up being neither. What they're trying to do has worked in other things, though. It doesn't help that it undercuts his performance from the previous movie. at least for people like me who really didn't like the direction with Ragnarok, because I'm able to. It's the most like sober and dramatic and kind of badass performance he gets to give in any of those, and I'm washing the bad taste of Ragnarok out of my mouth, and then we just go right back to it in its sequel, and
Yeah.
that was my whole problem with it. If we led with it, I would have rolled my eyes, but I would have gone, well, this is what we do with Thor now. Like, I would have accepted it a lot more if it had been in an Infinity War. I'm not saying I wish it had, because one of the things that jumps that movie up for me is how great Thor is handled. But I was sideswiped by it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I like Thor in it more than I do in Ragnarok because I'm like, okay,
It's coming from at least a character plays.
there's a character place, and I think it works on paper. It's just they made it like a stupid fat joke, and it's full of like the Ragnarok improv with him, and that's where it falls apart. And I've always been upset that they give the depressed alcoholic thing to Thor,
Sure.
but whatever. Because if they did it to Tony, they wouldn't have made him fat as a joke.
Well, it's also weird that he's I that he is, that depressed and cut down by what happens with Infinity War, but he kind of just takes the destruction of his people in stride after Ragnarok. That's part of my problem with it. Is I'm like, I mean, I get that technically the stakes are bigger and he's blaming himself for the deaths of more people, but like he not that long ago lost his whole realm
Hmm.
in a comedy movie that played too much of it for a joke when he should have been at his absolute lowest point.
Yep. That was brutal.
That's a lot of why that doesn't work. And I don't mean to compare things too much, except this is all in not just the same continuity and not just a progression of events for one character, but things that happened very recently right before that. And so when you track it through, it's maddening to me because the MCU was so much better at handling, for the most part, characters' arcs throughout multiple films and storylines, because Tony's is nigh flawless, and then you go to that, and you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So that just drives me
For the
crazy.
most part, yeah. No, for sure. What is your 87?
So my 87 was the aforementioned cheating special, and I went with the Power Ranger special that just came out last year, Once and Always, because in a lot of ways that's the Power Rangers movie that I always kind of wanted, and it's the kind of legacy throwback. What's the word I'm looking for? And fan service thing done better than a lot of those things that we've seen. Some of it's a little bit eye rolly here and there. It's also, you're comparing it to Power Rangers. You know what I mean? So like it works better for that than it might for some other things. It is kind of odd that Zach at like 50 years old is still doing hip hop keto, and he's obviously gonna wreck his back. But whatever, it's fun. I don't know why he has to come out and say he's doing that. We can see it, whatever. But that thing was a lot more fun and creative than I expected it to be, and I like the last season of the show more than a lot of people do. And my standard's pretty in the floor for Neo Saban because most of that is terrible. The first season of Beast Morphers notwithstanding, but I like Cosmic Fury a lot better than I expected to, and it's the same writers that did the previous season and that did Once and Always. They kind of clicked in at some point. I also think that they took at least a few ideas from David Yost's Netflix pitch, because he pitched a legacy miniseries that would reunite the original cast, and was trying to get that made for several years, trying to get the whole cast back together. And he's in that and was a creative consultant on it. I can't remember if his name is on story at all, but it looked like they probably took some of his ideas. But I don't know, the Robo Rita thing is goofy but fun, and the trying to go back in time is a really obvious thing to do. I'm kind of glad that they didn't full on do that. I don't even know how they would have shot it, and it would have been really awkward if they tried to recast everybody younger. So I'm really glad that they didn't go there. And it could have been a little longer, and it would have been nice if it had had some cameos or other main characters that were from other casts. As a big anniversary thing, I think a lot of Power Rangers fans felt let down by the fact that there are little references to other shows, and they involve them on the most superficial level in just saying that Robo Rita has gotten her hands on a bunch of Rangers from all the other teams, kind of like Draken in the comics, and then makes them all into little action figures. And so they have cameos just being on a shelf as figures, and none of them are cast or in it. They're just, and then they do the same thing with all the Mighty Morphin actors that they can't get in the thing. Which is really awkward, but not any more awkward than having half of the team not be in the opening fight scene, which is really well shot and on a gorgeous landscape. But when Trini dies, who of course is played by an actress who passed away a long time ago now, and so they made that part of the story. So they kind of did the T'Challa thing with it, Austin, but oddly for Power Rangers handled way better than that. And she is we see her die in that scene, and it's of course just a stand-in and a costume, and then half the Rangers take their helmets off, the ones that we have in this show
that were lame enough to show up,
that we were actually but not lame enough. It's a decent production, and then the rest of them just keep their helmets on and then get kidnapped and turned into action figures. So I don't know, it's hilarious. And then the couple of second season Rangers that we bring back, like Rocky and Kat, I wish we'd done a little bit more with, but it was nice that they were there. But well, actually, no. Kat gets quite a bit to do. Oh, I know what it is. They bring Adam and somebody else back. And they're in space, working for a pre-SPD thing. I think, and that whole thing was kind of odd, but they don't get anything to do, which was sad. But I don't know. Anyway, that's better than it had any right to be. And being the big Power Ranger guy that I am, I couldn't help but include it.
Nice.
Oh, Holy says he included that too. Yeah, it's entirely plausible that winds up on the communal list. Real late in it.
Yeah, I wonder, especially with it only being 50. I wonder if it would maybe have more of a chance at 100, or if it will with 50. I don't know.
Yeah, hard to say.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very good. I've heard a lot of people really like that. I've not seen it, but I'm sure.
Yeah, no. Well, you're not a Power Ranger guy. Why would you watch that? But...
Yeah. What are we on, 86?
Let me look. I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I just have to go -1. My 86 is Steel. Steel.
I mean, I knew it would be there.
Complete
for
disapproval.
You. It's fine. Go ahead.
Steel is awesome. It has the greatest edit in all of cinematic history, where Shaq is lifting up the thing, and then it cuts to him awkwardly silent in a courtroom. It has the best on-screen Oracle in live action.
I mean, that's not true, but okay. You're just saying that because you haven't seen Birds of Prey, but okay.
And because it's Steel. It's awesome.
Yeah, you and I just I don't know. We just respond to bad movies differently. Like I have a hard time doing the whole this is so bad it's good and I'm gonna include it on my list. Like I did it with Superman 4, but there's not very many things I would do that with.
Hmm. No, I don't know. Steel is just like a good time. Like you put it on, and it's I think consistently funny. Like maybe if I go back to it, I won't have that, but it's not boring. It's consistently funny and amusing and entertaining. Um, Shaq is not a good actor
Nope.
in any way, and it's very endearing.
He's
And
trying though.
he is trying. That is true.
No, you know, you're rooting for him, but you're also going, you should have never attempted this
Hmm.
at all.
Or if you did, you should have made 4 sequels so that I can have more, sir.
Well, and that's another one of those things that, like, if you loved that character, you might feel differently about it.
Possibly, but there are things on my list where it's a character that I do love that it goes so far off the rails where I'm like, I don't even associate it as the same thing anymore.
That's fair, too. Yeah, that happens with stuff.
Hmm. It all depends. I mean, Steel also, has never been in a movie again, so.
That will change almost certainly.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have no dog in just Steel as a character overall. But for people who do, I'm sorry. That movie's great.
And he's in My Adventures of Superman. He's really good in that.
Yeah, isn't he like a giant mech in that?
No, he's not a giant mech. He has a big mech.
Well, that's what I mean. Like he's like a big mech suit guy.
Yeah, but they do that with a lot of things in that show. But that's not an unusual thing to do with Steel. Like it's like he wears a big steel suit, so like taking that to mech suit, especially because that show is more than an anime inspired. It feels almost like it just is an anime. So so of course he's got a big mech suit.
Mm-hmm.
But another way you said that, I was just imagining him as a big robot guy.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. What is your 86?
And Thomas Lowe says Steel is in Superman and Lois. Yeah, and that's pretty good casting too. He's got a huge part in that. He's like main supporting cast.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know he was in that.
Well, they go to all the stuff.
I guess they really love Death of Superman on that show, don't they?
Well, yeah, and that's just kind of modern Superman stuff in general. Because a lot of the stuff that Jurgens introduced in Death of Superman just sticks around. Like it's a lot like No Man's Land was right after it. Where and I think with Death of Superman more so than No Man's Land, it's like a lot of people just have nostalgia for the the big what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of just conceit of that whole thing, and so that's part of why that stuff stuck around. But there are characters people latched onto. With No Man's Land, it was more that were like really good, solid characters that were introduced through that whole thing, particularly Cassandra Cain.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was just thinking because I know Superman and Lois does the like green Doomsday suit.
Yeah.
But it's not Doomsday. But then Doomsday shows up later, and then obviously you have Steel. Now that I know that.
And also something called Eradicator, but it's not really Eradicator. But that's so.
Yeah, I thought they did something like that.
But the reason I hesitated with that is because Supergirl also was kind of obsessed with Death of Superman also, and so they just kind of so I guess what I'm saying is modern Superman stuff all does it. Like everything that goes to screen modern Superman goes to Death of Superman stuff. And when we went to Superman and Lois, they just did all the stuff that Supergirl never got to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think too
about half of it they did, and about half of it Superman and Lois is now done.
When I was also just thinking of stuff like the green suit, because I don't like we never do that anymore.
I know. Yeah, it's sad.
But yeah.
Well, he's talking about the containment suit, but like the containment suit just makes sense that he wouldn't be buried in shorts.
Oh, he's like the Thing. He can show up naked, like in the movie. What is your 86?
My 86 is Batman versus Dracula.
Oh, okay. I'm a little surprised, but I assumed that would be a bit higher in your list. I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, well, the whole thing's arbitrary. I never know what to do with these numbers.
Yeah, fair enough.
To be fair, some of it there is, as you might expect, a decent amount of Batman on my list. I being the big Batman guy I am, and so of the things that I liked enough to put on the list, it's gonna wind up a little lower. That series is not my favorite Batman series, although I've warmed up to it quite a bit, and I started warming up to it through that movie, so I have that to thank for it. And I love all the thematic stuff it does in comparing Batman to Dracula. It's really clever and smart about all of that, and it's really pushing envelopes for what you can do on a kid show on TV that still remains pretty Saturday morning cartoon. Like, that show gets elevated past that stuff, but I think about it, I think of it more as a cartoony Batman show than a Batman the Animated Series. But then there'll be those places where it really surprises you, where you don't think it'll go there. And Batman Brave and the Bold did the same thing, but was even more, Saturday morning cartoon-esque, because that's more the well that it's going to. And it also ramped up its production value and its look. I want to go as far as to say almost as much as Phantasm did for Batman Animated Series. I'm not saying it looks as good as Phantasm.
But for that art style.
But for that art style, they were really pushing things with that movie, and they did not phone that in. Like, that is quite a piece of work.
Yeah, and they push the what they're allowed to get away with kind of more than animated DC does at this point in terms of movies.
Well, the thing everybody remembers is the blood raining down and Joker lapping it up, and
like, I don't know if they would do that in one of their R-rated movies now. Like, they're so tame.
They might, in the context that was, because, like, it was just a blood bank. It's not like he killed a bunch of people.
And
but
they
it
make
is
it
still
black, like it's not red. But
was it not red? I can't remember now.
From what I remember, I think it's black, because I don't know if they would have been able to get away with that if it's red. But I could be entirely wrong, and it might be like
it's been
black,
too long now.
Like hints of red.
Well, I say that. I think I watched it a couple of years ago. I just don't remember right off. It's also odd how similar that is to the opening of Blade, of all things.
Oh, for sure. It's a shame we didn't get the second movie that they were planning. Like, if it could have been on the same level of quality.
Do you remember? Have they ever said what the premise was?
Yeah, it was Hush. They were going to adapt that book.
I didn't realize that, or I've forgotten. But I don't know if I've ever heard that. Crazy, because they didn't do a lot of straight adaptation in that show. Interesting.
It would be the only Batman cartoon that does Hush, right? Like, yeah. I was gonna say maybe he shows up in one of the other cartoons that I just don't know, but I don't think so.
Well, and I mean, Hush comes late enough that, I mean, they couldn't have done it through the entire DCAU.
No, of course, but we've had several cartoons since then.
Well, you wouldn't have done it in Brave and the Bold, just being the kind of show that was, and then after that, the only thing you say several, but Beware is about the only other play is.
Yeah,
you haven't had anything else. I mean,
and then Harley and stuff like that.
After that, say again.
Said even like the Harley show could have done it. Like,
yeah, but the Harley show doesn't straight up adapt anything. It's a farcical show.
They could do that. About that story. I'm talking about that character though. Just like that character's never popped up in animation.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, and I mean they did the one-off movie, but
yeah, I mean like in any of the shows.
But they haven't done a show, yeah. That's true. Yeah. It would have been really funny if they had done a like sillier version of Hush in Brave and the Bold.
That's what I mean. Like, you could have done like a sillier Hush in that. Like, even if it was like an opening bumper, like or not bumper, but you know what I mean, like an opening.
Yeah, I wonder what that would have been in that show.
And who would he have teamed up to fight Hush?
But I'm sorry, just going back to the Batman. I wonder what that movie would have been. And then it would be really funny if you even did Hush and you never had a Harvey Dent in that show. That's really funny.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Because they kind of made Clayface their Two-Face,
Mm.
which
They
is
both got
great.
face, yeah. No, that's something that I always find funny where it's like, oh, what's your favorite Clayface? And a lot of people go to the Batman. I'm like, I mean, he is just kind of Two-Face.
He's kind of Two-Face.
Fair enough.
He could be both. He could be your favorite Two-Face and Clayface.
Yeah. And favorite false face if you really want.
Sure. You really push it.
Yeah.
And then just pick like any fallen cop in Batman things. He could be that too.
Yeah, exactly.
He's so many things, Austin. Okay, what is your 85?
So my number 85 is Hellboy.
Wow, that's actually a lot lower than I would have expected.
2019.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Proof of what I said last entry, that there are things that I like that are so far removed away from the things that I like that I can enjoy them on that level. Hellboy 2019 is a movie I think is 100% stupid all the time. It is never not stupid, but it balances being stupid awesome, stupid funny, and just plain stupid, and it goes back and forth between the three of them. And the entire story is a complete mess, and it's not Hellboy, but to me none of the Hellboy movies are, so like I don't have that issue with it as much as a lot of people do. And I think David Harbour is really good in the role. I think the makeup job on him is really great. I think Mila Jovovich is pretty good as the villain, and her henchman, who's the Scottish pig, is my favorite thing ever. Yeah, it's a good time, and that's about it. It's very like trying to be Sam Raimi and not really accomplishing it, but it gets there fine enough. It's very like schlock horror in that way.
Yeah, I saw that one time, and it made no impression on me whatsoever. I know there's people that absolutely loathe it, and I remember sitting in the theater. I remember seeing it like real late at night when I saw it, and I wasn't in the mood for it in the first place. And so I don't know if I'll like it more or less when I finally have to sit down and watch it again. But it was like it pissed people off. I just thought it was kind of a chore.
Yeah. No, I
am a little surprised that you liked it enough to put it on your list.
No, and it actually was originally higher. It came down a little bit because I showed it to Robert, and he was not gelling with it as much as I was, and it made for like a lesser viewing of it. And I was like, I should probably drop this down a little bit. But in my heart, it's maybe higher. But I find when people watch it with me, it's usually their best watch of it, because they get to see the funny side.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's a lens you have to see it through, but like I'm not the kinds of things that you find funny with, you know, schlock horror and stuff does not typically do much for me. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I also was not impressed with that guy.
Oh, with David Harbour. Fair enough.
But I mean that's all I remember about it really. And I remember that story being like ultra convoluted, but
it's a huge mess, that story. Absolutely. And then there's stuff that they take from the Del Toro movie and do it not as well.
Yeah, which was just odd. Like I don't know why you wouldn't go back to comics and try to you know, more directly adapt or just totally go your own way. I don't know. Like if you're gonna reboot out of a thing that didn't even finish, you'd think you wouldn't look at those as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It definitely made for an awkward reboot, but
the only thing that's weirder than that is the new one saying that it's the fourth entry in a franchise in the posters. That is maybe the single. This is hyperbolic. That is maybe the single most baffling thing I've ever seen in advertising, next to, or at least tied with, the first Ghostbusters teaser from 2016. But it is right there. It's on that same level. 30 years ago, 4 scientists. I'm like, everything about what you just said makes no sense. And then it goes, and then the new Hellboy movie goes, the fourth movie in the franchise. Like,
Yeah, it's like
what?
a global series of Hellboy or something like that. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I get why they did it, but it's preposterous that you would call attention.
No, Ketchup, because their distributor is named Ketchup.
Yeah, yeah.
Ketchup has been like the worst distributor for the new movie, both in just baffling marketing like that.
Well,
And
they introduced it with a teaser that looked like a fan film, and then they put out a real trailer, and it looked a lot more like a movie.
and
So that was odd.
it's coming out this month. It's like no marketing. Like, that movie's gonna bomb.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Nobody knows
yeah.
about it unless you already care about Hellboy, and we're getting off in the weeds.
And
with this,
80% of people who know about it are like, why isn't it Del Toro's third movie?
right.
So, joy. But, oh well, whatever. I got the Hellboy game. I'm enjoying that. I have some joy for the Hellboy things.
Yeah, but you got to sympathize with those people a little bit because for a whole generation of people that actually paid attention to that, it's like Raimi's Spider-Man would have been. Like I can't appreciate people that are introduced to, or I have to say I can't appreciate the perspective of people introduced to Spider-Man through Raimi because of course I had it well before that. But I can appreciate people that feel that way about Hellboy because I didn't know what Hellboy was before those movies came out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's not like I had the comics to look at in the first place. So I get why you don't need that third movie as much and why you want them to go more to comics, but I can't begrudge people that feel that way because there was another movie left to make, and it never got made, and that was that franchise for them. So
I don't know. To me, it's more so just annoying. Like it's the Snyder thing for me, where I'm like I get it. Like, let's move on. Like, it's done. They're not gonna make it. Ron Perlman is way too old at this point. They're not gonna give Del Toro the money for it because he wanted way too much money. And it's the Raimi thing. If you couldn't talk about Spider-Man with people without them going, oh well, it should just be another Tobey Maguire movie. Like it's that. Like it's way worse for me with I don't know. It's very obnoxious. And I like the Del Toro movies. We will get there.
Yeah.
On my list, but I think a lot of the fan base with them are very obnoxious. Anyways,
yeah, and I can't get worked up about it because I'm not a Hellboy fan. So like I don't know. So to be fair, I don't appreciate your side on it anyway because I don't have a dog in that whole thing. But it is a little bit different than like the Snyder thing or something because I see why whether you like the newer stuff or not, I see why people are looking at those and immediately going, well, that looks terrible. Why can't you just give me like at the very least, one of these things looks like it has more production value than the other things. I see why people are taking a glance at these things and going, that doesn't even look like a real movie compared to what we had before. And so it is a little different.
I guess. I don't know. It actually looks like a Hellboy movie is the difference. Like it's
to you because
sure.
You have source material that you know and care about already. I'm just saying I don't think you're seeing the other side of it.
Why should I have to leave that at the door though? Like I don't know. Like I don't think that's fair.
If they already loved a character through something else that they came to in the first place, why do they have to pick comic books up? That's the other side of the argument.
But I feel like in this discussion I'm being told I have to leave my baggage at the door so that they can have theirs, and I'm just saying I don't think that's fair. Like I don't know.
Well, it sounds like they're just saying they wish they had that movie and that's all they cared about. I don't know why that has anything to do with you.
Well, it's annoying that it's like the only discussion that happens around these movies is like to me, like I can't talk to anyone about it.
But I feel like I've had that with about 19,000 things with MCU. You know what I mean? Like those of us that are already fans of this stuff have to deal with that all the time with everything. You know what I mean? Like I also can't talk about comic book Thanos because he's boring because he's not relatable.
But fair enough.
That whole thing.
I agree. I also think it's annoying when people go, "Oh, like comic book Thanos is stupid. He's just like a guy who is butthurt that he can't get with a woman." Like I agree with that.
But I also get why they think that because they've never looked at it.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I kind of leave the whole thing alone. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, fair enough.
Chewbacca's Lover put in a $5 super chat. Scarecrow, Two-Face, and Ra's al Ghul were supposed to be in Batman 2004, but they weren't allowed due to them being in the Nolan movies with the Bat embargo. Yep, that is true.
Yeah, which I feel like that's not a thing that we really do anymore, but it was a lot bigger back then. Like that's why you don't get Sandman and Electro. Or well, you get Electro
Right.
later in 90s Spider-Man.
It's weird when it occasionally comes back and rears its head again.
Oh, has there been something like more recently that does that?
I can't remember. I feel like there's something and it's not coming to me.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Dan Schneider, $5 super chat. Hellboy 19 wasn't what the director wanted. He said at a certain point executives were directing the movie for him and doing stuff he didn't want.
Well, 100%. That movie is very clearly a mess of voices all competing to win out. What is your 80? What are we on? 80?
85.
85?
Yeah, just write all your things in a real list and then you'd know.
No, I refuse.
Yeah, okay. So I guess we'll just deal with this the entire time. My 85 is Split.
Oh, okay.
Mostly just because of the experience I had that with that in the theater. Because I had never had that. And I don't think it can ever really be duplicated again. But that you get to the end of that, and it turns out that it's not only somehow a superhero movie backwards, backdoor, but is also in a universe that I never expected to see more of, and that I already respected a lot with Unbreakable, which I think I gave a 4 back in the day with Superhero Rewind, and I was already like shockingly liking a Shyamalan movie, which I didn't think would ever happen again. And then that happens. Split is not a perfect movie, of course. It's really sloppy with its psychology and stuff, but it's also, kind of heightened about it. And McAvoy is always good, but he's especially good in that. With how I totally different and discerning each of those personalities are. It's kind of sad that he doesn't have that as much in Glass, because it feels like he didn't. It feels like he maybe didn't have as much time to prepare or something with that movie. They don't feel as distinct in that, but that movie also sucks. So,
Which I did not bother watching for this.
I doubt if it would have cracked your 100.
I don't know. Something tells me it probably wouldn't have.
Well, you might have found it funny bad enough that you would include it, because you do a lot of that, but I don't think you would have.
I mean, from what I've heard, it's just boring.
There's some baffling stuff that you might find a lot more amusing than I did.
I mean, I know like some of the ending stuff is like kind of amusing, but like I don't know, like not that funny. I don't know. Like the puddle thing, I guess, is kind of funny, but
Yeah, for a second, and then
yeah.
you're like, why did we do? Yeah, and then the way it retcons the timeline just breaks your brain, and I wanted to die in the theater. I was like, what is happening? This makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and with Split's like entirely a movie that's held on McAvoy and Anya Taylor-Joy. Like they're both really great.
And was that her like big introduction to everybody? I know it was the first thing I really saw her in.
That's 2016. So that the first thing I would say is The Witch.
Okay,
at least that I know of, and then that would be like that's like a big introduction for a lot of people, and then Split's like a bigger thing. Like it's like the next step, I would say. But I'm sure for a lot of people that was, and she's really good in it. I was gonna say my thing with Split, I think you have the therapist character, and I think a lot of her scenes are kind of just her talking to the audience, being like, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Like a lot of that doesn't work, and the ending.
She also just has some weird dialogue that I feel like is
Mhm.
not what anybody would ever say.
I mean, that's just Shyamalan's
It is,
writing.
but that character especially has some really weird lines. Like,
Yeah,
there's this
absolutely.
place where this is so minor. There's this place where she looks at McAvoy and she goes, "You know this?" And I'm like, "Who talks like that?
Mhm.
Why is it? Why would you say it like that?" It's very strange.
I also think while
She
cool and
she's talking like she was born in 1875. It's like it's very strange.
I mean, she probably was. While cool in premise, I think the ending scene is really stupid, where
Yeah,
they're watching the news
I
and it's
mean you're
like,
not wrong.
here's this man, he has like 40 personalities. They're calling him the Horde. Oh my goodness, that's just like that guy 25 years ago. What's his name? Mr. Glass. So stupid.
Yeah,
But I'm sure that was like mind blowing on a first viewing because you're not expecting
it
it.
was. It just didn't even
And
matter
you're
the
not, it's not even
context of it.
registering. You're just like, oh my god, it's unbreakable. What?
Well, and you're just like, how am I looking at Bruce Willis right now? And what is happening? So yeah, you're not even thinking about the context of it. And then on a second viewing, you're like, wait, that doesn't have anything to do at all with Mr. Glass. What?
My favorite though is I was talking to my brother and his girlfriend the other day, and they were like, "Oh my god, we watched Split. It was such a good movie." And then they made a second one called Glass, and it was like completely insane. And I don't know why, but I just think it's really amusing that they watched Glass, like or Split, did not know Unbreakable even exists. So like that ending doesn't mean anything. And then they watched Glass, and it's like what is even happening? That's just really amusing to me.
And I can kind of see how it would happen and how it wouldn't even phase you if you grew up in a world with Marvel after credit scenes where everything just exists to set up the next thing, where that wouldn't even look like a callback to something. It would just be, and now we're setting up another thing.
Ass, yeah, he's coming.
But you've also got to be thinking, well, maybe not. Maybe if you're not like a superhero person or a comic book person. But I was gonna say you've got to be thinking we're in this world that just had this one like supernatural bad guy. Why are we just setting up more bad guys? And then Bruce Willis is there because he's Bruce Willis. So like I guess we're gonna have some action hero guy all of a sudden in the middle of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Bob the Hunt
Okay.
put in another $5 super chat. Thanks, man. He says M. Night Shyamalan said he could direct the Pokemon movie. What? And make it an allegory for the Holocaust? He said this right after Signs came out. No joke. Wow, I'd never heard that.
He should get on it, Nintendo.
No.
Yes. They're getting put in their
Just
Pokemon.
make all the children cry.
hmm Yeah, it'll be awesome.
That's
I'll cheer for that.
that's wild.
That is insane.
I've never seen his Last Airbender movie that everybody says is the worst thing in the world, but I wonder if you tried to make that some kind of allegory for something.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
He just seems like the worst pick in the world for adapting anything. Like Shyamalan is at his core experimental, like college filmmaker guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't mean to belittle him. He's made some good stuff and he's made stuff that looks really great. But like he stays in that mentality that you have when you first start making movies in school, and he kind of never left that. For better and for worse. Like he's not a studio guy.
Mhm. No, I mean he's kind of gotten away from that entirely, for better or worse.
Gotten away from what?
Like being a big studio guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's back to not, and he didn't do that for very long.
I feel like he did it for like quite a bit. His first at least like 6. I feel like Last Airbender is the thing that like kills that.
Well, that's
but,
true,
like,
and I guess his earlier stuff were technically studio, or I mean, not even technically, were studio movies. But I guess what I mean is he was given a lot of free reign, and he wasn't adapting anything, and he was like writing, directing all of his stuff. So I'm just saying he kind of kept that mentality.
mhm. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, well, and it sucked for me because I'd only seen a lot of his like really bad movies
Yeah.
or movies that people are kind of like flip-floppy on, and I didn't really like them. And I watched Unbreakable and Split for this, so like I got to see at least somewhat of a different side of Shyamalan. I won't say one way or the other because maybe they're on my list, maybe they're not. Who knows?
My guess is one of them is and the other one is not. Dan's Den says After Earth does. After Earth does what?
Oh, After Earth is maybe the thing that kills him being a big studio guy. I forgot
I see.
about After Earth.
And that, yeah, that did look.
Maybe also killed Will Smith as the leading man. I mean, not technically, but still.
Yeah, I never looked at that. Well, yeah, because he still made that tennis movie after that he got the Oscar for the same night that he slapped a person. Dan Schneider, $2 super chat,
Yeah.
like Goyer Shyamalan, which I saw, by the way. That's a good movie. Like Goyer Shyamalan almost adapted a lot of things.
Oh, okay. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Is he like a Tarantino where he keeps picking projects that are adapting something and then drops out?
Never ends up making them.
Never ends up making them. Like you just know, like he shows up in something, you're like, okay, he's not gonna make this. This movie will not happen.
That's right. Tarantino's had a lot of that.
He's had a lot of that.
Okay, what's your 84?
My 84.
Did it come out in 1984, Austin?
Maybe like. Actually, no, I can't even. I was gonna say maybe in like 194 days, but no. I
don't know what that means.
My last one is the new Deadpool. Deadpool and Friend.
Deadpool and Friend. I still wish that's what it was called.
Which I'm sure will probably drop a little bit on. Actually, I shouldn't say just on a reviewing of it because I have seen it twice now. I
gotta tell you, I just saw it again over the weekend, and I had actually quite a bit better of a watch with it the second time.
Oh, cool.
And I would probably, if we could change our list, because we're not cheating, we're keeping it the way we had it when we started, I would move it up if I could, actually.
Oh, well, I've been like retooling some of the things in the middle, but just because we haven't gotten to them. Like once we get to them, I was like, it's set. But
oh yeah, I thought we decided we weren't even going to do that. In that case, I might move a couple things around, but
there's just been a few things where I'm like, I wasn't happy with that. I'm still kind of monkeying with it, but like not like I think like one movie. Like it's not like I'm sitting here constantly doing that. But anyways,
well, we never know. I know exactly what I'm going to change now after you said them.
Iron Man 2 went from 1 to like
nobody'll ever know.
Yeah, I don't know. We just did a bunch of spoiler cast stuff on it. Like
yeah,
that,
sure.
But it's pretty good.
It's really fun.
Yeah, exactly. What is your 83?
Well, the real quick thing I want to bring up with that, since you brought that movie up, and just kind of amend this a little bit, is I did not fully appreciate because I just the first viewing, and you know me, things sometimes on a first viewing hit me sideways, and I need another viewing. I don't like to talk about anything right after I see it the first time. I'm very weird with this, where I feel like my first viewing with a thing almost doesn't count. So when we did the spoiler cast for that, and you said you thought it was Jackman's best performance, and there was a lot of pathos with that character that you were resonating with. I did not have that, did not appreciate that, and saw all of that on the second viewing.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that car scene especially, I think, is one of his best scenes as Wolverine. It's really good.
And the scene with Cassandra Nova is really kind of.
Yeah, that was the big scene that I expected
and
to like really hit you, and I was kind of surprised it didn't. So that's cool that you had that on a second time.
My problem with maybe I'm revealing too much about myself or psychoanalyzing myself too much. I don't know. My problem with the first viewing with things a lot of the time, Austin, is just preconceptions and like writing 101 stuff that gets in my way.
When you know the kind of blueprints so well.
I'm just watching too much of this stuff.
Where I'll go see the Matrix code.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying it like that, because that's what it feels like. And it's disingenuous. It's not fair. You want to take a thing on its own terms, and you want to let it wash over you and do what it's trying to do, and you want to let it break the rules when it makes sense to break the rules. That was a case where I felt like I didn't know enough about his background and thought we were gonna get more concrete stuff in that scene, and then we didn't. And then on a second viewing, I didn't need as much of that as I thought I did. And I also think I just maybe missed a couple of bits where we knew everything we needed to know at that point. I don't know what on a first viewing I felt like I was missing. But this isn't just me being self-conscious and trying to come to some kind of consensus or compromise with Austin. Like, I have to agree with Austin on everything. For anybody that might be thinking that, I saw all the stuff you were talking about in a second viewing.
I mean, I think I even state that in that video is, this is a hot take, no one will agree with me, but I really liked Hugh Jackman in it, and I think it might be my favorite performance from him.
Yeah.
So like,
and whether I think it's his best performance or not is immaterial. I don't even know where I would land on that. It's more just now I get why you said it.
Yeah.
And why you're calling that out as a great performance. Like I was definitely seeing it after that. I also saw it with my wife, so I was seeing it through her lens a little bit. And there's a lot of really interesting ways that movie is made very much for my wife.
Oh, fascinating.
Particularly with like music choices and stuff, but also just some of the cameo picks and stuff. Like, I got really lucky that, and spoilers for that movie, but I got really lucky that nobody managed to spoil anything with that movie for my wife, even though it had been out a month before she saw it. So she got to get hit by the Elektra thing, which was really cool for her.
Oh, that's great.
Because she's one of the 5 people in the world that likes that movie and still stands by it, and I will never understand that.
Wait,
but
she likes the Elektra movie?
Yeah,
wow.
She does. Unabashedly.
That's wild.
I know! Isn't that crazy?
So when she puts her list in for the top 50, Elektra will be number 3, right?
Yeah, we will probably see it crack the communal top 100.
That's awesome.
And
I still really likes flying curtains.
I still can't get over how good Cassandra Nova is. That's part of it. And then the other thing is on a second viewing, nearly everything Gambit says is a layered joke about the fact that guy didn't get to have that movie. And some of that stuff I did not pick up on the first time around. Like, a couple of them I did. But nearly everything he says is about that. It's so good.
It's at least like 80% of his dialogue.
It's really funny. Anyway, I don't know.
So John constantly, like...
There's a lot of heart and soul in that movie.
Sends me Gambit memes of the... I'm about to make a name for myself, where it'll be like me and my friends at Applebee's after work, and then it's Gambit, and I'm like, yep, this is great.
I've gotten back on Twitter, and quick plug for that. I'm on Twitter. I'm Superhero Rewind over there, and I've been posting a lot, and I saw... I keep seeing these posts that people will make, Austin, where they'll be like, there's a rumor, or there's an announcement that that such and such studio is talking about making some things, and then they'll have boxes underneath with screenshots of things that they of things that they think might be alluded to with that. And a lot of these posts, one of the shots will be of the last thing on Earth there's any chance that studio is looking into making. And I retweeted one of these today because it made me laugh so hard. Where it was Disney Plus is gonna make more Marvel shows. They've got more stuff in development. And one of the boxes was Gambit from Deadpool and Wolverine. And I was like, there's no chance they make that, but okay. And I tweeted and I said, if they made that show, they need to call it La Gambit.
Yeah, I think with the changes they've made, they've added like a revenue thing with it. Maybe that's been there longer, but I think that's like a newer thing. So I find you see a lot more like engagement farming with stuff like that, where it's like, how do I get people to like reply to it more? So you'll get stuff like that. But that's maybe just me being cynical.
No, I'm sure that's why it's there, but the stuff people are picking, it's like weird wishful thinking or just like
Mhm.
not, and I don't mean to be a prude, but like not knowing this stuff well enough, where I'll just be like, "There's no way that's what they're thinking." Like, what are you doing?
You should do a parody of that post where it's like possible James Gunn DC shows, and then just sneak Gambit in there.
Yeah, or one of the boxes is steel.
Oh yeah, there you go. Nuclear Man.
The Nuclear Man spinoff.
It's called Nuclear Man. I will hurt people.
By the way, Austin, I'm sorry for giving you crap about your numbering. It's getting late and I'm not feeling great and I'm getting cranky.
No, it's okay. I think it's like I keep forgetting it because I'm scrolled past that first one, so like it throws me off whenever I look down.
I thought you could like put numbers in them, or does it just automatically number it?
It just automatically numbers it, so it numbers everything,
Okay.
and I have a two-parter now below it, so it like all I have to do is remember that I just have to minus one. It's just I keep forgetting when we look down, or
Okay.
when I look down at the list. Oh no, that was my last one. What is your next one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, because
No, I almost went again. So
well, it's my fault. You brought that up, and then I started talking about it because you're like, we don't need to talk about this, and I was like, oh, yes, we do.
I
But
was just worried people would be bored, but you had more to bring to it, so
yeah,
I
and
didn't have anything new to add.
I
Like,
could have saved that for when we get to it with me, I guess. But I just saw it again, and it won't.
that'll be in like 10 videos from now. It's okay.
Well, and obviously, I'm not going to tell you where, like how far up it is, but it's not in. It's not going to be tonight. It's not going to be in this list. It's going to be a little higher than
Yeah.
that. My 84, is of course a movie you won't agree with. But I can't make my list based on Austin's opinions.
I'm ready to shake my fist.
And that's fine. But but I don't know. Like I like this movie a little bit less than I used to, but I still like it well enough to get it on the list. I did go ahead and include Age of Ultron. More
Oh, I mean,
for,
that's fine.
well, but I know you're like really anti that movie.
But I wouldn't say I'm anti it and that I'm like, oh, how do you enjoy that movie?
Yeah,
Like I would say I'm disappointed with Age of Ultron before I hate Age of Ultron. Like,
sure.
so like you're like, oh, I like Age of Ultron. I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. But like some of the issues you have with it just aren't things that really bother me much. Like, I don't mind the quippy Ultron as much as a lot of people do. I also feel like a lot of people turned on it, and I kind of stayed in the same place I was.
Well, and my thing with the quippy Ultron is also like I was so excited about that movie when it was coming out, and they sold it as so much darker as what it actually was.
That's fair. No, that's
So
totally fair.
a lot of that's on Marvel.
Yeah,
But like I remember the night before the movie,
it was like false advertising. They didn't sell it
yeah,
as it was. Yeah.
I remember the night before the movie came out, they released the first clip, and it's the part where he's like, "Oh, you know, everything creates what ultimately destroys it," and he starts listing things, and he's like, people and children," and I was like, "Oh my god, what are we doing? Like, this is not what I thought this character was gonna be." And then I saw the movie and it wasn't. But anyways,
No, that's fair.
I don't want to dogpile in that movie. Tell us why you like that.
A lot of it is like, well, first of all, there's just some decent like thematic and idea stuff. I like the AI stuff in that movie, and I like the Tony Stark stuff in that movie. I still think it's weird that you get to the end of the movie and he doesn't get arrested.
It's really weird. He just drives off.
I don't get how he gets in a car and he leaves. Like, in the theater, I was really expecting him to say something to Cap, like, "Okay, I gotta hurry up and leave. The police are after me. I'm on the run now." It's like nothing like that. Like I don't know why he doesn't have to face up to any of that, but okay. And then retroactively, I like it more even after Civil War, because the setup for why the Sokovian Accords and everything happens is because of that movie. I like the way Tony Stark keeps overcompensating for everything. Where it starts with I have to put a shield around the world, and then it turns into I have to put a shield around superheroes in case they do what I just did. And so he's just going extremes and overcompensating. That's very Tony Stark. And the idea of having an AI kind of Tony Stark that wants to make everybody him was a really good idea to me. And Ultron's one of those characters, kind of like Kang, that I don't have enough experience with to have expectations or to care what they do with. So I was looking at him as very much a blank slate.
Yeah, and for me, like I'm fine with that. Like they could have done anything with Ultron. My issue with quippy Ultron is I just don't think it makes sense. Like they try to tie him to Tony Stark, and I don't think it makes sense with how he's born in that. Where it's Tony and Bruce find like an algorithm in the soul or the Mind Stone, and they're like, we can use this to make Ultron, and then Jarvis kind of plugs away at it while Tony and Bruce go off and go to a party. It's like Tony's never there, like he's never really that involved with it. So like I don't know, just I don't think it's connected fully enough for me to go, oh yeah, like he's made by Tony Stark.
Okay, it was enough for me that he was just in Tony's system and it starts from technology that he created. Like I thought that was kind of enough.
Mm-hmm.
Jarvis never had enough of his own personality for me not to see him as an extension of Tony Stark that just sounds like a British guy. Like that was always enough for me.
Yeah, well, it's just all like Ultron exists within the Mind Stone, and then they like take him out and put him into Tony's machines.
Oh, see,
and
I
then
never.
he learns.
Okay, I never interpreted it like that. I
And
was
then
just interpreted the Mind Stone as the power source that got us there. It never occurred to me that there was a entity in the Time Stone in the first place.
Well,
I've never had that thought.
I'm trying to remember exactly how they word it because there's something where they're like the Mind Stone, like deep in the stone itself, like there is an algorithm, and if we take that and like plug it into our machines, then we can get the Ultron we've always wanted. So like it is kind of like built out of that.
Weird.
And I think the idea is that it's like a mix of it, where like it's a mix of Tony's machines, but I need Tony to actually be a part of bringing Ultron to life in order for that to really come through. And then when he finally does, he just looks on the internet for 3 seconds and he's like, okay, I'm evil now, I guess. It's very Apocalypse in that way. That's something we keep doing in superhero movies.
Yeah, well, and then that becomes a big part of my issues with that movie, where just everything is rushed and there's too many ideas and plot points crammed into 2 hours, and it at the very least needed an extra half an hour. But that's where you get into the limitations of Whedon as a TV guy before he's a movie guy, where he's so used to truncating. Because the problem is the first movie he made on his own was Serenity, which in a weird way almost becomes like a blueprint and a formula for how he makes movies. I think, because Serenity, and I like that movie a lot, but more as an extension of the TV show. I don't know that it really works on its own. The problem with Serenity is he used that, and he got lucky that he got to make it as a way to get out everything he really wanted to say with that show. At least through, another season. And so it is like a whole season or 2 of TV all truncated into one movie. And you can more than make that argument for Age of Ultron. And there are even things about the first Avengers that I could argue feel very like, season arc of a TV show. Less so, certainly.
It helps that the first one
still feels more like a movie.
A lot going on. Like
it doesn't have too much plot-wise happening. That's true.
Mm-hmm. Like it helps that it's not complicated.
But it does kind of feel like that's just how he makes movies at that point. And then you look even at like Cabin in the Woods, and it kind of has that season of TV thing a little bit. And I like that movie a lot, but anyway, so you see his limitations. He like started in movies, in writing movies, but he became very much a TV guy. And when you're running 3 TV shows at once and then you make a movie, and you're a guy that's as dialogue driven as he is, you can see why he would struggle with getting everything into a movie and structuring it properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. The last thing I'll say with Ultron is I also just don't. So Loki was not a threatening villain in the first Avengers, but I think it works because it's Loki and just it kind of plays into his character. And then Ultron also has that, and I just don't think it really works. Like you have stuff like he's flying away, and Hulk jumps into the ship, and he's like, "Oh, come on, man!" Like he's so pathetic, and I don't think he also works just as an antagonist in that movie. But um, I'll throw out things that I like about Age of Ultron because it is on your list, and I don't, like I said, I don't want to attack you. That's not what I'm doing. Um, I really like that that movie has more of a focus than the first one on saving people. I like when superhero movies remember that it's not about just punching the bad guy. Um, the climax is still a little like we combined the helicarrier and New York fight into one, but I do like that the ultimate thing with it is uh, everyone makes it off of here, or we all die. I really like that for the climax of an Avengers movie. Um, the Hulkbuster scene is really cool.
Well, and I think the introduction of Scarlet Witch is
That's what I was going to
decent,
mention next. Yeah.
and the introduction of Vision is really quite good, actually.
No, their last scene together, Ultron and Vision, is really good. That is definitely probably the best scene Whedon did in the MCU.
It's the best writing
Mhm.
in that movie, at least, if not
If not both.
between
Yeah.
them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I'm more disappointed in Age of Ultron than just straight up hate that movie.
Well, and to be fair, it's not a movie I ever go back to.
And it's
I just
weird
have
because
those things
I've
I
seen that
admire
movie a
about
lot. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
What do you have next?
oh, what do I have next?
Sorry, we're at 2 hours. We've taken our time a lot more than I meant to. Apologies.
It's okay. We can kind of throw this one off real quick. This is my 83 is GI Joe Retaliation, the last GI Joe movie. I promise we're done with that.
Wow.
Uh,
You put three of them on there.
I put three of them. I don't know. I like GI Joe. They're fun. Um, I think it's an improvement on the first one. Obviously, it made it higher. Uh, I think it's taking a lot more from the Larry Hama comics, and I appreciate that. Also, just a lot of the spectacle is really cool. Uh, some of the mountain stuff they do with Ray Park is really impressive, and some of the choreography there is really cool. Um,
I didn't know how much of a direct sequel that even was.
so it's really weird. It is a direct sequel in that it builds like the main plot is the cliffhanger from the last movie, but it also knows that people didn't like the first movie. So there's a lot of okay, throw all of that away. Like there's a joke at the
So
beginning.
it feels soft rebooty, but some of the same cast is there?
Yes. So
How much of the same cast is there?
it might just be Ray Park.
Oh, crazy.
And I can't remember the actor who plays the evil ninja Storm Shadow. And then Channing Tatum shows up for 5 minutes, and they delayed that movie a year to add more scenes with him because he got really popular after they shot it.
Oh, that's funny.
And then, but they also didn't change the fact that he dies. They just added more scenes of him at the beginning, which is very amusing.
Is he doing a really weird, bad Cajun accent?
I wish. No, and he's fun in both of those movies. Not as fun as Gambit, but he's usually pretty fun in things.
I will say, they're not going to make that Disney Plus show, but I would absolutely watch the crap out of that.
Yeah, definitely.
It should just be a sitcom.
Yeah, just do Gambit Vision.
Gambit Vision?
It'd be
The
great.
Gambit Vision.
La Gambit Vision. The beginning of that movie is also really funny because they break Cobra Commander out of prison. So at the end of Rise of Cobra, Cobra Commander's like, haha, like I control everything secretly. And then he immediately gets arrested. And the second movie opens with him being freed, and it's like him and Christopher Eccleston like side by side, and Cobra Commander looks at Eccleston and he's like, "Nope, I'm not rescuing you. Like you're not coming back." Cobra Commander is also played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the first movie, which is strange.
That is strange.
But he's pretty good in it. And
That's really odd casting.
it is, yeah. And he wears a mask the whole time. Like it's like a twist that it's him.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. But he did not come back for the second one.
I missed Bob the Hunt's super chat about Ultron when I was talking about that. So let me backtrack real quick and read that. He
Yeah, I don't
says,
have much to say about that, anyways. So
"No, I'm sorry. If you had anything else you wanted to go to,
no, that's pretty much it. Like it's a fun action movie. There's not much to that movie
I
plot
can't
wise.
help you. I've never seen those.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll finally watch them. I just never thought to. I've
I don't
never
know that you'd like them,
cared
but
anything about GI Joe. So
they're pretty fun.
sometimes doing this job, I find myself finally getting into franchises just because everybody else is like knows them. Where it's this like really weird kind of nerd peer pressure thing where it's like, well, I don't feel like I have enough of my geek cred if I don't know this thing. All these other it doesn't look like a thing I would ever look at, but I guess I have to.
I mean, GI Joe is something I feel like I should be embarrassed to like because nobody does. But oh well, whatever.
Again, that does not seem to be the case because merch seems to move with it.
Yeah, well, I guess what I mean is just Hasbro keeps trying to make it as big as Transformers got,
It's never
and
going to
it
be that
and it
big.
never works, and it
Yeah.
never will. But
Well, and that was such a place and time thing too. Like, it worked in the 60s and then it worked again in the 80s. And I don't know when we're going to be in a place where that's really going to work again. But
I
like,
think it could have been in 2009 when that first movie came out, but they missed the boat on
see,
it.
even that seems a little bit late. I feel like the prime time, anything like at all recently, would have been 2 or 3 years after 9/11.
Okay.
And you make it like everything else right then all about GI Joe fighting terrorists. But like since then, when has anybody really cared about anything military? That's part of the problem. And I realize that GI Joe is more heightened than that, and you're always telling me it's not just military stuff. But the fact remains that that's the aesthetic of it,
Mhm.
and
Absolutely.
it, there's always going to be interest from kids in transforming robots. They're just fun to play with. You don't need any kind of like larger social thing connected to that. There's nothing priming children from wanting to play with soldier dolls anymore,
Hmm. No,
right?
you're not wrong.
Like superhero costumes have never gotten out of fad.
That's why Snake Eyes
But
is the most popular thing, right? Like he's a ninja. Ninjas are always
ninjas
cool.
are always popular. Yeah, exactly. No, this is all very superficial. It's really just about what children will buy more than anything.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. When I remember when those movies came out, and a lot of the adults that really liked the '80s cartoon, I think, thought of the first of the live action movies as being a little too kiddie than what they expected, and then by that point they already lost the audience. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Eric Brown says Top Gun 2 was big. That's different. It's not being aimed at children. I mean, it works
mhm.
uh, excessively broadly for kind of all ages and is enough of a family movie or whatever. But when you're talking about things that start from a toy place, that start from a merchandise place, you either it either has to be stuff that you can sell multi-generationally to adults and their kids, or things that adults never fall uh, out of fashion with.
Mhm.
And so the kids that grew up with, say, Power Rangers and Transformers is like this too, like never left it, or they left it and they came back to it.
Mhm.
But for whatever reason, GI Joe doesn't seem to have that
Which is why
as
I think,
as much.
which is why I think it kind of has more of a legacy in comics than anywhere else, where you can maybe get like a little bit more adulty and not have to worry about the kid audience for that. And I mean, the Larry Hama stuff's been going on for decades now. Like it's always been there. It's like one of the most long-running comic series of all time. And then everything else in adaptation has to try to placate somewhere between the comics and the TV show. And the TV show also sucks, by the way. It does not have the Transformers thing where the cartoon is awesome.
Well, and the other thing that, and we got to move on. Obviously, the other thing I think you have to keep in mind, with something like GI Joe and Transformers doesn't have this as much because it has constantly gotten renewed interest with various successful versions that have just like it's gotten a good track record for quality.
Yeah.
GI Joe hasn't had anything that really hit since the 80s. And so everybody that grew up with that is in their 50s now.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
Power Rangers will eventually have this if they don't reboot and that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. That's the difference is they had a TV show on for 30 years and kids were still watching it and buying toys from it. It wasn't as popular as it was in the 90s, but it stayed big enough that you didn't just need the adult fan base of 30s getting into their 40s like me to keep that going. But now you do. So like it could have that later on. Transformers has continued being renewed. It's got movies that for a long time made $1 billion every time, thanks to China more than anything. But that kept happening.
It always has a show.
It always has a show, and it's had 4 or 5 really popular, pretty decent shows. G.I. Joe's hasn't had any of that.
No, I feel like every time they try, there's just not enough interest, and it doesn't last long. Unless it's comics.
So that's the difference with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the comic audience is always so much smaller. Like, and ironically, that's all Power Rangers has now.
Mm-hmm. That was crazy.
So we're in the same place G.I. Joe is. Except that there is that base that will always buy toys when they come out. And then they immediately become way more valuable than they should the second they're not in print anymore. It's very strange. Bob the Hun, now $5 super chat. If they were going to do Quippy Ultron, they should have given that to us in the trailer, but they made him seem like a scary badass and he wasn't, which was also the complaint kind of that people had about the Mandarin. It's kind of that same thing all over again. Mm-hmm. Or Mandarin would become that same. No, that was first. And then they did it with Ultron the very next year, I guess.
Yeah. No, too. Iron Man's the first thing after, or Iron Man 3 is the first thing after the first Avengers.
Right. Ultron's 15, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's right. I'm always thinking it's 14, but it can't be because that's both Guardians and Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm. No, that would have been wild if they managed to get it out that fast.
Yeah, I know we're well over 2 hours. We'll try to get the last couple of these knocked out real quick.
We're almost there.
We're almost there, yeah. We've only got, 3 more?
3 for you, 2 for me.
Okay. My 83, and I would like this to be higher, but I'm not as familiar with it as I want to be, and it's not a property that I'm already a big fan of and primed for, so that's why it's as low as it is. But it's not at all a quality thing. This is an excellent film. My 83 is Dredd.
Oh, okay. Nice. I mean, I can respect that. That makes sense.
Yeah, I like that movie a lot. I've never gone back to it.
Mm-hmm. It's not a movie that I think of going back to a lot. Like, I think I've only seen it twice.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how rewatchable that would be. It feels like kind of a ride while you're on it sort of movie.
Mm-hmm.
But sure. I love the performances. I love how small it is.
Yeah, that's the best thing about it. And Carl Urban is great, like you said.
And the production value is really good, but it's not a bloated kind of budget. It's sad he didn't get to make his TV show. It would have been really good for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
And it's got wonderful atmosphere. Eric Brown says, "Wow, yeah, people probably expected that to be higher on my list, but I don't know it well enough to put it any higher than that. That's one I wish I had. If I rewatched it, it is probably 20 higher than that, I would imagine, but."
I would have had the same thing if I didn't rewatch it at the beginning of the year, so I get that 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'd seen it since it came out.
And again, remember, these are favorites, not what we think is technically the best. So at the moment, that's not one of my absolute favorite superhero movies. It's really good. I mean, I absolutely respect it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
when we get to the tip top, and I don't want to give anything away, but my top 10 or 20 would probably not look exactly like a Rewind top 10 or 20, regardless of the fact that we put Rewind in the title. But you know what I mean. Like this is for favorites, as opposed to, like based on reviews or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
It's all arbitrary, but
Oh well. Do you have more to say about Dredd, or
No, I haven't
I
seen
guess,
it in a
I guess
long time. I
fair
need I
enough.
need to I need to watch that movie again.
My 82 is the first Swamp Thing, which I kind of mentioned with Return. I think the biggest issue is that it happens too early.
Yeah.
That being said, still a decent B movie.
I
Uh,
actually nearly included that. I like it too.
yeah, it's a good time. Adrienne Barbeau is an actress I always really like. She's the main love interest, and
And
she's good in it.
B movie or not, the suit's pretty good.
The suit's really good. Yeah, I agree. Um,
I can't remember who built that.
I'm actually not sure, to be
I
honest.
used to know that. I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember if that was like I'm gonna look that up real quick because I feel like I should know that. Because I don't think it's like an early Michael Westmore thing, but it might be. I don't think it is.
Hmm. Maybe. Yeah, I
I
don't
think it's
know.
maybe even somebody bigger than that. Westmore did all the Star Trek stuff from TNG all the way up to Enterprise.
Hmm. It's also impressive to me that Swamp Thing is one of the first DC movies. Like we get that before 89. Like that's crazy. And years before 89, as we talked about with Return, because that was the same year.
Yeah,
Like that's insane to me that we had a Swamp Thing movie before Batman. Not that Batman hadn't had a movie technically, because the Adam West movie, but I don't know. It's kind of different.
I must have been thinking of something else. It's not anybody I've ever heard of.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, Ken Horn. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know who that is offhand either.
Well, anyway, this was very interesting.
Yeah, and you get some cool monster suit fighting by the end of that movie. It's not brilliant, but it's the best Swamp Thing we've got so far, besides
Yeah,
the theme song of the cartoon. But
it it honestly took itself a lot more seriously than I expected when I
mhm.
watched it. Because you're right, like it's got B movie sensibilities, but it's it's trying to be a real movie, and it's got some nice atmosphere.
Mhm. Yeah, I know exactly. I think Wes Craven, you can tell, is not, like a cheap B movie director. Like it's a B movie because that's what it is ultimately, but
Yeah,
you can tell that's not where he's going to be stuck moving forward. Even if I don't think he's fully uh, grown yet as a director by that point. I mean, that's only like his third or fourth movie, I think. Like it's really early in his career.
Leonard Vole is a name I don't recognize. Welcome, hi there. It says, fun fact: the original script for Blade Runner was supposed to be in one apartment building, so I feel like Dredd is a realization of that idea. I didn't know that.
Oh, fascinating. I didn't know that either.
That does kind of make sense based on the source material. Because like the book's not exactly in one apartment building, but a lot of it takes place in like a location.
When isn't that a novella, or am I wrong about that?
I don't know if it's technically a novella. I've read it. It's not super long, but I don't actually know word count how it falls. It was I mean I had it in a paperback that didn't have multiple stories in it, so I mean like it's
Oh,
big
okay.
it's big enough to be its own paperback.
Hmm.
That's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yep. He was the king of the titles that got changed for their movies.
Yeah, and of books that end up with covers from the movie that don't belong because that's not related enough to the book. I hate that.
Oh no, I hate that too.
Well, and I had a copy of Do Androids Dream that changed the name on the cover to Blade Runner with Harrison Ford
No,
on the cover.
you
Yeah,
can't do that.
it's terrible.
You can't do that.
You can't do that. It just makes me want to murder
Just looks
something.
like a novelization.
Okay, my 82. Sorry, did you have anything else to say about that?
No, let's go watch it.
Swamp Thing. It's fun. Uh,
He fights everyone.
My 82. Once again, this is one of those movies that you can argue whether it should count as superhero. It's on our official list, and I did a very early rewind on it. There's another movie I haven't watched in a long time, but I felt the need to include Dick Tracy for style over anything else. I really like the set building in that movie.
That was one I really wanted
And
to
all the
watch for
colors.
this and never got to.
I
But
think you'd like it a lot.
I'm sure I probably would.
And Madonna is shockingly good in it.
Oh yeah, I forgot she's in that. Is she like the main like female lead in that,
Yeah.
or is she just? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if like she's like a smaller role.
If memory serves, she gets a decent amount to do in that.
Okay.
But again, it's been a long time since I've seen it.
Mhm.
And I have some of it is a nostalgia thing too, because I have really early memories of that movie. I saw it shortly after it came out when I was a kid.
Mhm. Are there a lot of really annoying snipers in that movie?
I don't understand this joke.
I was making an AVGN joke, but it's probably too late for that. In the
I mean, I've seen his reviews of that, but I don't remember. The snipers were like you get out of the car and then they're trying to pick you
Yeah.
off on the street. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I remember that.
I assume that's like the entire movie from that game. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just
Talk about the movie.
nobody in cars knows how to drive right. They're just spinning around all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was that big kind of zeitgeist moment where everything wanted to be 89, and it was the very next year, I think, or the year after, but it was already hugely influenced by that. Everything wanted to be kind of a neo noir, either Blade Runner or Batman 89 kind of project, or both. And of course 89 was looking at Blade Runner quite a bit as well. And but that movie's really tongue in cheek about it, and it's just fun, like how off the page it is, where it's unabashedly adapting those early strips, and is for the most part not worried about being too contemporary. Although I remember it having some kind of soundtrack choices that are pretty dated.
Hmm.
But again, it's been a while.
I mean, that would just be following 89 too, like with the Prince stuff.
That's true too. Yep.
I'm guessing it's Madonna though, because she's in the
I
movie.
can't remember how much Madonna music is in it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Again, I wish I had had a chance to watch that again before we did this, but
I hope they fight in a hallway to Like a Prayer, but it probably do not.
but yeah, just talking about favorites, I still have an affinity for that movie. I'd like to go back to it. I think that there's other pulp stuff that story wise is more interesting. I mean, that movie is kind of thin because of what it is, but I think it captures the spirit of that whole thing really, really well. And there's a lot of really neat makeup effects and stuff in it with henchmen and.
Oh yeah, I would hope that you capture some of the weird thug stuff from Dick Tracy.
And I'll also say, if you ever did, and I know that we've adapted this a couple times to live action, but you could still get more stylized with it. If you ever did a much more big budget Tick than we've ever done, it should look like that movie.
That'd be cool. Yeah, having not seen it, like what I've seen of it, that would be fun.
Because the Tick goes to Dick Tracy almost as much as it goes to Frank Miller.
Mm. I mean, that's where you get Chairface from.
Yeah. And a lot of those henchmen where you get like Dean and Zipperneck and the guy with ears like little raisins.
I always think it too that the Looney Tunes one where Daffy Duck becomes Dick Tracy. That's a good short too.
Oh, and I forgot Elfman also scored that. He was ridiculously busy.
He's doing like every superhero thing for
everything, yeah. Well, he did Darkman before '89.
Mm-hmm.
I think Darkman. Well, I always say that. I think Darkman came after it, but I think he might have scored it first. I can't remember. I'm always on the fence about that. I can't remember.
When Darkman is so weird because the soundtrack is like a perfect blend of '89 and Spider-Man, and
I'll have to listen to it again. I've never had that with it. So many of the motifs are '89, but like once removed, and it's always weird in my brain listening to it.
It's more 89, but I remember when I first saw it, I was like, oh, there's also a lot of Spider-Man in this. But maybe you would hear it and be like, no, this is the 89 stuff it's picking up on that you're not thinking of.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, maybe
because
so.
you're more of a score guy than I am.
Well, and also just I have that soundtrack memorized. I've listened to it so many times.
No,
so.
exactly. Exactly.
Okay, what's your next one?
So my 81 is the first Hellboy movie.
Okay, so these are the last ones for the night. We're going to finish up here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Is the first Hellboy, the 2004 movie.
Okay, we have finally perfectly lined up on one. My 81
Wow.
is Hellboy, yeah.
Didn't think we would line up.
I didn't know that would ever happen, and we nearly did it twice this evening.
That is true.
Because we had Deadpool 2 right next to each other.
Yep.
That's crazy. Wow.
I'm shocked we had one, like, with so many options. I'm shocked.
So many options. Yeah, we had 400 movies or more that we could have picked from. Austin, why is yours as low as it is? Because nobody will be surprised that I've got it this low, but I'm a little surprised that you. And then I'm going to be very curious to see where Hellboy 2 lands on your list, because I also think that's a better movie. But
it's a way better movie.
You think it's way better?
Yeah. So I like the first Hellboy movie. I think it's pretty good. It is also a movie where a lot of the studio mandate stuff like really brings it down. Like I hate.
Fair enough.
I hate the like main guy that is forced in there so that we have someone to relate to. Like all of that stuff drags it down for me.
Yeah, and the love triangle.
The love triangle stuff doesn't work, and it is the one.
We're doing it again. We're not even talking about what we like about this movie.
It is but also like this is a movie I think we all agree is good. So like it's more justifying why it's low.
Why it's low, yeah, sure. Yeah. Like, of course it was going to be here.
Of course it was going to be here. Like, there was no way it wasn't.
Well, and on the competence of Del Toro's directing, if nothing else.
Yeah, and Ron Perlman's great.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I don't think we've.
I think the opening flashback is really good.
But he's really great. The opening flashback's really good. Yeah, like all that stuff's really cool.
Like, I think it establishes tone and premise pretty remarkably well, because
yeah, exactly,
it is an oddball, off the beaten path, like strange kind of idea to make a movie in even as late as 04.
Oh, and then of course, John Hurt as Broom is like perfect. That's completely reinvented for the movie, but it works really well. He's great. Yeah, so the other big thing for me is that it's adapting comic
and also
stuff.
Abe Sapien by himself probably makes that movie worth being on the list, just because, like, on a technical level, that's really impressive.
Yeah, and I don't think the first movie has aged super well with some of its effects, mostly CGI, but like all of that looks really good. The practical suits and stuff. Hellboy's chest is a little plasticky, I think, in the Del Toro movies, but not enough in a way that I'm like against the movie on it. Like,
no, I agree. There's
like
a little bit of Power Ranger monster stuff with those movies, but there's I also like the charm of that. And you know me, like I like that stuff, so I don't mind when the seams show a little bit.
No, that's what I was gonna say.
I like puppets and crap.
It's
like,
not an issue.
I think 2 even uses some puppets. I might be wrong about that.
1 might. Well, I think 1 uses puppets too for the big. I always call them hellhounds. They're not hellhounds, but the Samael thing. The things that, like, when you kill them, like 2 of them spawn out of them. The big monsters in it. I think those are puppets.
I don't know those movies very well, but that second one, when we go to that big elaborate cool town, and some of the creatures in that might be puppets. I can't remember.
Probably. But yeah,
it's not important.
With the Hellboy movies, it's like, I think the first one is a very watered down adaptation of Hellboy, and then the second one doesn't even bother being an adaptation of Hellboy. It is the Batman Returns, where it just, you go, okay, this director has a vision, go, and they go off and do their own thing. And obviously 89 Returns, you can debate on whether it works or not. I think with Hellboy specifically, it works way better in the second one.
Yeah.
Where he just goes off and he does his own thing.
And I've never heard anybody that would argue with you about that. I think nearly everybody likes Hellboy 2 more than the first.
I've definitely talked to people who don't like.
Oh, interesting.
I've heard people say it's too comedic. I know John really doesn't like Hellboy 2. Apparently he just doesn't like twos. He doesn't like
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2. He doesn't like Superman 2. He doesn't like Hellboy 2. What a fraud. Uh,
I can't get over the Superman 2 thing. I almost fired him on the spot, and then I was like, well, but then I got to watch 8 more hours of Smallville without a co-host, so...
you should have. I would have.
I did make it a short and made fun of him in the title of the short, though, so take that,
Yeah.
John.
How dare you say you like Smallville and then also say you hate Superman 2?
I haven't tweeted that short yet. I got to try to get that out to more people.
We need to make sure that John is owned on every level. Uh,
Sorry, John.
but yeah, anyways, the first Hellboy movie.
You're not fired. I'm not doing 12 hours of Smallville season 6 by myself.
But yeah, Hellboy 1 is a movie that I think is good despite a lot of kind of wishy-washy things in it. Why is it on your 81?
I mean, for a lot of the same reasons, except like we talked about earlier when you put the other Hellboy movie on your list, I don't have as much in the way of source material to compare it to. That's not fair. I mean, I know what that looks like, and I've read a couple of things, but I didn't have it to start with. You know what I mean? So I mean, like in my mind, the perfect Hellboy thing is animated in the first place. Like I don't even
love that. Yeah,
need that kind of material to be a live action. I have the same. I feel the same way about Hellboy that I do about Ninja Turtles, and I feel like the animation style should be actually kind of similar between the two of them. But I digress.
Well, a good Hellboy animated series would look like the Ninja Turtles do in the Batman movie, the crossover.
Yeah. Well, we talked about how that looks real Mignola-y when we did a commentary on that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I know he doesn't like when things like try to recreate his style, so that's probably the closest you could get with him being happy. But
yeah, but it actually looks okay moving because it's simple enough. It's real angular. It's not that far away from like a Batman animated series or something, but it's grittier and it's more, it's more pencily.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that movie when. So I have an interesting history with that because I saw it with my wife in the theater and didn't understand or appreciate it on first viewing at all. It just completely lost me for whatever reason. And I remember falling asleep during it. Like I didn't even get through it the first time I saw it. And having to go back to it for that early scripted rewind, I watched it in one sitting. And I remember I didn't even take notes. I was just kind of enamored with it. I had a totally different experience with it. And I wrote that script in an afternoon. And I was surprised by how taken I was with the whole thing. And even then, I had... I don't know if I wrote much about it, but I had some of the same feelings that you were talking about with how kind of commercial and in some ways typical it is. But I also thought that as far as studio origins go, we've done a lot worse.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we both had studio origin things below this too that are ones we like. So,
and I just thought there was a lot of, pathos with that character. One of the standout scenes for me in that movie is the funeral scene. I remember really appreciating that.
Yeah, that scene's really good. I also really like the scenes with him and the director of the BPRD when they kind of make up during the climax, during the third act. There's like the really nice little bit where he lights Hellboy's cigar with a match.
Yes.
That's a really good scene. That's what I mean. Like, Hellboy is a good movie. There's just things in it that kind of hold it back, but there is a really good movie in it.
All the casting is really good, and I like he and Liz together, regardless of whether you would want them to be a couple. It's not a bad romance by any stretch. The love triangle is stupid, but I like them.
And I like works in those movies with those actors.
Yeah, and I like her kind of, X-Men rogue sort of plight in not knowing if she can control her powers and worried she's maybe going to be a monster and all of that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
And
And
just
then,
production value. It's a pretty good looking movie.
yeah, definitely. And then Rasputin is there.
But part of the reason I don't even remember the villain anymore. Part of the reason
He's there. He's fine.
I like two quite a bit more than one is one of my big complaints with that movie is just that Hellboy seems a lot whinier than he should.
Hmm.
I always had that with it, and
Yeah.
then we get away from that pretty hard in the sequel.
Hmm. No, he's more like clueless in two than he is like whiny about things. While he's angsty in the first movie. So that's fair.
Yeah, I didn't need any emphasis on the boy part, and I felt like they were overthinking that.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Well, the audience will be confused. He's got boy in his name, but he doesn't look like a boy. So we got to put teenage angst in it when he's not a teenager. Like I always thought that's what they were doing.
Mhm. That's 100% what they were doing. They're like, he's boy, so we have to make him like a 10-year-old. And then 2019 goes, he's boy, let's build off of that. Now he's like a 15-year-old. And it's like, guys, that's essentially just a joke. He's called Hellboy. Like,
Meanwhile, they don't overthink it. Meanwhile, how many Ninja Turtles things have you seen where you have to remind yourself they're supposed to be teenagers in the first place? Like, and now we've overthought that real hard with them. We do that all the time now, which is irritating. But we didn't used to.
and you know what combines both of these things is injustice too.
That's
where
right.
they link.
We can have them fight each other. When you go back to the posters, like the teaser poster for the first Hellboy movie, they make him look a lot younger than he does in that movie on the poster.
Oh, really? I'd have to go back and look at it.
Or at least that's my memory of it, because I remember seeing the poster before I even knew who that character was, because I'd never heard of it before that movie came out, like a lot of people. And I remember then seeing the movie and going, "Oh, weird! I thought he was going to be like 15."
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really funny.
But yeah, I think it's just because he's like mostly in shadow. And so just the way he's turned and looking at you, like the first time I saw that, I thought he was supposed to be 15. Now that I'm looking at it, and I'm obviously used to that actor in that movie. I guess I'm not having it as much now, but that was my first impression with it.
Oh, okay. So I have like my letterboxd open, obviously, because I'm looking at this list.
Yeah,
and that's the poster they have, but I assumed it was a different one. Okay.
Yeah, no.
I mean, if you don't know anything about it and you see, boy, I can see why you would make that judgment.
Yeah.
I was about to ask you what your next one is, and then I remembered, oh yeah, we lined up.
Right. Yeah. No, we're done.
That makes it a lot easier.
That's it for this time. So we just knocked out 10 more. We talked a lot longer than we needed to. We went off some into some dark alleys, but it was fun nevertheless.
Into some interior dark alleys.
I almost forgot about that.
I don't even remember what video that is from originally.
It was a really long time ago. I don't know if I could ever go back and find it.
Yeah.
I wish I could, though. It's so good. Was that even a recorded thing?
It was, yeah. And I'm still waiting for that to be a Geekvolution t-shirt. We haven't gotten there yet. But one day we will have an interior
we should
dark alleyways shirt.
Austin was like, interior dark alleyway. I'm like, it's outside. How can it be interior? It doesn't make any sense. He's making fun of himself about it. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's a set. Interior dark alleyways.
Set.
Clint Barton / Joker walks into frame.
We're not even filming it on a back lot. We shot it inside of a warehouse.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's interior. So does that mean that, by your logic, most of the script for Batman Begins says interior when we're outside?
It does, yeah.
Wow.
Same with Rebel Moon. It says...
Well, Rebel Moon, it says Zack Snyder's living room.
See, I was about to say Zack Snyder's basement. We both went to a different room.
Well, I'm just trying to be consistent. I've always said that looks like he shot it in his living room, so
Oh.
I'm gonna be consistent about it. It's the living room. Austin, my big takeaway from this is maybe I'm finally gonna watch a GI Joe movie.
And then you're gonna be like, "Ah, this guy, what is he talking about?"
I'm curious about about cast, and also just so that I know what people are talking about when they talk about GI Joe, which I realize is like 3 people I know, but
Yeah, yeah, mainly just me.
there's also a part of me that kind of wants to see if I'll ever get an in with that to give myself an excuse to buy the Renegade board game stuff that connects to Heroes of the Grid, because I talked about this last time, but they used the same system from the Power Rangers game that I played for GI Joe, and I've never had an excuse to buy it because I don't care about GI Joe. But if I watched a GI Joe thing and liked it, then I would have a reason to get that stuff.
Possibly, yeah.
I don't need any more of that. I have so much of it. You know, the only reason I want the core set for that is because I think it would be fun to be able to take my Power Rangers to New York. I
yeah,
want
there you
that
go.
set for one tile. Because all the locations in Power Rangers are, just made up Power Rangers places. You got like Ernie's Juice Bar and stuff, and then you go to GI Joe and it's New York, and I'm like, I kind of want that.
Well, that's, I'm sure, how the script for the new Transformers G.I. Joe movie opens is interior New York.
Right. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We're gonna do this again, hopefully next week. I don't know if I've got so much going on, I don't know if we'll have time, but we're gonna try. But at least the week after, we'll do these until we get them all knocked out, and probably 10 at a time. And thanks again to all of our patrons, but especially our Patreon producers. I'll go ahead and read those names down real quick, which I try to do at the end of every Rewind video. Sorry I forgot it last time. But that includes Breezy Hemi and Jesse Surtees, Chewbacca's Lover, Dr. Hello, Goofster123, Joe Turner, Jajira, John Matthew McLean, Super Billy, Vic Apocalypse! That's a new name. Victor, Abic Stark. I hope he sticks around for a while so I get to say that every time. Vic Apocalypse. Abic Stark, Adam March, Damon Begay, Hot Soup, Invisipig, John Sandoval, guy that hates Superman 2, Kareem Roberts,
He
Matthew
just
Brody, Michael Martin, Miguel Rodriguez, this guy, the Day Ghost, Unknown Passenger, and Wendell Jones. Thank you guys. Appreciate you so
Yeah.
much. And thanks
And I
for
feel like-
watching live.
I feel like next time I will have a more interesting 10, because this one is more of like a dumping ground. But
Is it going to be more things where we'll actually everybody else will nod their heads and go, yes, that's a good superhero movie? Or will it be more like kind of question mark things?
yeah,
You know your line. You know your line. Your line is bit of both.
Bit of both, exactly.
Jareth Gearhart, a watch party for the original G.I. Joe cartoon would be fun. You said it's not very good.
I've never been able to get into it. Maybe that is the way to enjoy it, but I don't know. Transformers I can watch like any day.
We
G.I.
can do
Joe-
the movie. You put it on your list, and the animation
Sure,
looks
that
good.
movie's insane.
I mean, I would watch that blind. That looks like a decent blind watch kind of thing.
Cobra Commander becomes a snake. It's so weird.
Just because he's a cobra?
No, he gets like poisoned with something or something, and it like devolves him into a snake.
But did they just do that because he works for Cobra?
What's because there's like a secret Cobra Wakanda that you find out about in that movie.
Oh, yeah, you said that.
Yeah.
I wonder if we've ever done that with Hydra, where like Red Skull or somebody leading Hydra has to become a literal Hydra.
I don't know, but a Red Skull Hydra sounds cool.
That does actually sound
Not
kind of
if
cool.
it's specifically him, but like if he made a Red Skull Hydra.
No, it has to be him. He has to turn into a Hydra. And you cut off one of Red Skull's head, and two more emerge.
And he's like, Captain, you have decapitated me, and now I have two heads.
But he like says it in creepy unison.
Yeah, that's what I
with,
mean.
like,
Yeah,
multiple voices.
That'd be awesome.
Right, like he starts singing in like multi-part harmony.
I also feel like my impression of Red Skull was more.
Chekhov from Star Trek? Yeah, that's what I
It's.
was
Oh,
having.
I was gonna say his henchman guy from First Avenger, but also kind of Chekhov. You're right.
Chekhov from Star Trek. So all of a sudden, Red Skull starts telling you about how everything was invented in Russia, and you're like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Your nuclear vessels are
Assholes.
mine, Captain.
Okay, we got to get going. I don't know what we're doing anymore. Thanks for watching, everybody. We sure appreciate you. We'll see you again real soon. Join Austin and I tomorrow night if you're so inclined for Beetlejuice. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin. The day goes.
See you, folks.
Good night, folks.